Hello.
There we go.
Good evening and welcome to the regular meeting of the South Haven City Council. Today is Monday, June 16th, 2025, and this meeting is called to order. Tonight's invocation is from Pastor Travis Wilson of Peace Lutheran Church. And happy anniversary.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. It's good to be with you all. Thank you. Let me offer a prayer for us. Holy One, God of compassion, we gather tonight with gratitude for the privilege of living in and serving this community that we love. As we begin this council's work, grant all who are present, leaders, staff, and neighbors, clarity of mind and compassion of heart. May our discussions seek wisdom, our decisions uphold justice, and our actions nurture the common good for all who call South Haven home. In this week of Juneteenth, we remember freedom's unfolding story. May its legacy inspire us to build a city where every voice is heard, every history honored, and every person flourishes. As summer unfolds, bless the festivals that bring us together, from Play-Palooza's laughter to Barbecue's joy, and next weekend's Pride celebration, where love and diversity shine. May these gatherings remind us that our strength lies in unity and our beauty in our many stories. Bless those who mend our streets, protect our shores, run our city, and tend to our shared life. May we serve with courage, humility, and hope. Now, as we pledge ourselves to liberty and justice, renew us in a steadfast commitment to make them real here in South Haven. Amen.
Thank you. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Megan, could we have a roll call, please?
Jeff Arnold.
Here.
Mary Hasley.
Here.
Wendy O'Nuki.
Here.
Joe Reeser.
Here.
George Sleeper.
Here.
Letitia Wilkins.
Here.
Annie Brown.
Here. Thank you. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
I move to approve the agenda.
Second?
Any discussion? All in favor say yes.
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 Opposed? The agenda is approved. Next, community update. And we have an update from Van Buren County Commissioner Gail Patterson-Gladdy. Good evening.
Good evening. Thank you. I always appreciate this time when I can let you know some of the many things that are happening in Van Buren County. I think in the past I had given you the information about the local government leadership intensive training that's taking place on the June 21st and 10 to 4 o'clock. I don't know if any of you had a chance to sign up for it. It did have a cost, and some of the trainings from MSU Extension do have a cost, but there's also scholarships. If you don't make this one, look forward to other trainings. And I think I've given this to you before. We had a presentation by Kaya Gritter. She is the new interim district director for MSU Extension. She took over for Julie Piak. If any of you knew Julie Piak, she's great, and she's still staying on to help with the grant for the Veterans Therapy Garden. So if you want to see her, you could still see her for a little while longer. She's working on that. So Kia gave us a presentation for the annual report from MSU Extension. She talked about there were over 3,800 participants from the county who attended their programs, 381 4-H enrolled youth, 777 county residents participated in health and nutrition programs. And I will give this to Kate so that you can see more about the report. I know you have a lot of other business, but I just want to make sure you know about this event. Also, one of the things that I mentioned, that promoting health and well-being, they have great programs, and some of them are on Zoom. So you could maybe take a course on Tai Chi if you're not going over to the senior services doing Tai Chi. They have Tai Chi for arthritis and fall prevention. So many of our seniors need fall prevention, so if you know people in your neighborhood, some of your constituents, you can let them know about the great programs that they have. One of the other programs I just want to mention shortly is by, headed up by Tyler Ox. He's the government and community vitality educator. And one of the programs, which I would like to take one day, is communicating through conflict. And it's, I'm going to just read this part. It is especially important in today's polarized society and stressful workplaces to develop and maintain positive relationships by gaining skills to handle conflict competently. 47 Van Buren County residents attended the 2-hour interactive Communicating Through Conflict workshops, which provide participants with tools and techniques to handle situations and interpersonal conflict more effectively. So a lot of the programs they have are very timely, and a lot of them are free. So there you go, Kate. Thank you. Okay. Also, stay tuned for a change in one of our programs. The Van Buren County Committee of the Whole and the BOC, we're going to have a final vote if we're going to change the date. Usually the second and fourth Tuesday of the month, we have our meetings. But one of our committee commissioners is not going to be available, and it's his first time on the board, so he wants to know about our annual audit, our annual budget. He's never done that, so we're going to possibly change that to September 8th. So I will keep you up to date on that. One thing that I found very important there are people in our area who need extra help with their homes. And Lakeshore Habitat for Humanity has a home repair program. And I was able to get that information through the city. Thank you, Michael Landis. So if you want more information, you can check with Michael. I'm sure he will help you. It's a grant, and you can apply. It goes by your income, and also they ask if you're a veteran. So it's a short form to fill out, and it would possibly help some of your residents who need home repairs. There's going to be a veteran social on June 26th from 6 to 8, and anybody's welcome, but especially veterans and their families. And that's, again, at our new location, which we had last year, but some people still don't know about, 226 East Michigan Avenue in Paw Paw. And then the last item is that there are possible changes in our state for mental health and how it's delivered. Right now, we have the community mental health boards, and your mayor is on the Van Buren Community Mental Health Board. We are now challenging the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services, who want to make that take it away from the hands of the public and make it a private funded program, possibly Blue Cross Blue Shield, and some other insurance companies might be able to take it over. There's many reasons why the Board of Commissioners do not want to see that, and also the CMHs, Michigan Association of Counties, is against the privatization of that. First of all, if the insurance companies take it over, they have to have, off the top, the administrative cost is 15%, and the CMHs are 2 to 3% administrative costs. So that's money that could be used for mental health care. And I'm going to leave that information with Kate, too. There's a lot to know about the mental health, this mental health issue in the past. I think it was Representative Zerke, a couple years ago, had wanted to try to privatize mental health services. And we just feel that the community mental health staff, they have the compassion, they're working to help and not to make money. So we will let you know what's going on with that. And do you have any questions? Yes, Joe.
Are there any social programs in Van Buren County that have funding cut due to the federal government?
Okay, quite a few programs, we're sort of waiting to see what happens. Today at Area Agency on Aging, at the board meeting, we are still waiting to see what cuts are going to be handed down. So hopefully none, but if some of the cuts that have been made are where they're not increasing the funding, they're lowering the funding, and so that's going to affect some of the programs. Also, Veterans Services, we're still waiting on that, and on the Road Commission. Right now, some things are still in limbo. Some edicts have taken away money, then they said, okay, we're going to give it back to you. So I have to give you more information later on that.
Thank you.
But, okay, you're welcome.
Ian?
Oh, go ahead.
For the veteran services, I was talking with Dave, and it sounds like some of the cutting is actually coming from the state level, not the federal level.
Yes, yes.
And for the home improvement that you spoke of, so it's great that we've got it here at the city. Is it also being provided to our senior services outlets for people, because many seniors go there? And do you know, are the veteran service officers making sure that, like, American Legion and VFW have those forms for the home improvement?
Well, I just got them from Michael, so I just letting people know. So I don't really know if they know about it yet. So
Okay.
if you know anyone who needs to, like David and Dennis at the Veterans or American Legion, it's, right now, it seems like word of mouth. And Michael, you had received that information. Did you have anything to say on that?
It's actually through Lakeshore Habitat for Humanity, and it's on their website.
Okay.
The city has filed a letter of interest for CBDG funding for this program as well, but we're still working our way through that process.
Oh, thank you, Kate. Okay, but any information I share, I try to get it out, and if everybody shares the information. Right now, I have talked to a resident too in Covert who's been trying for years to get her roof replaced. She's a senior, and she doesn't make very much. She has to keep working even though she can get Medicare. I told her about this, and so I said, let me know if this works, because sometimes people apply and they just don't get it, and so we're hoping that people are successful. It's a very short form, and they will contact you after you fill out the online form. Lakeshore Habitat will call and set up an appointment to talk to you. So,
Thank you.
you're welcome.
Thank
For
you.
your time.
It is now time for public comment for items on the agenda, excluding items scheduled for public hearing, and you have up to 5 minutes.
Hello, everyone. My name is Tom Capps, and I'm at 235 Bailey. I just want to give a little update. For those that don't know, I am running for city council this year, and I've been out talking to a lot of people, And some of the feedback, I guess, on one of the hot topics would be the beaches that you're gonna talk about. And I just wanted to say that a lot of people are concerned. Nobody wants anybody to die, but they're also very concerned of the cost and who's gonna pay for it. And I know some of you guys know that already, but I just thought I should update you because I'm pretty new getting out, knocking on doors. So that's one of their concerns is that we've done a lot. We've got beach patrols, we've got buoys, we got throw rings, we got life jackets, and they just go, how far do we have to go? And not that lifeguards wouldn't be great, but how much is it gonna cost us and how much liability may we assume when that happens? So I just wanna let you guys know that there's people asking me those questions. And the other thing that's on the agenda today a little bit, I think, is for the ambulances and services. And if we have enough coverage, we've got more and more calls, do we have enough people there? I will just throw out one little brief thing that happened about a year ago. I've got an aunt of mine that's 93 years old. She's a veteran of the U.S. Air Force. She's never been married, and my wife and I are kind of in charge of her a little bit. And I take her everywhere. She's still, sound of mind, lives at home by herself. But about a year ago, we had to call for an ambulance. She had back pain and couldn't get out of the house. And when we called the ambulance, we had to wait quite some time, and they had to get an ambulance out of Covert. And I just think, she's right in South Haven Township, and to have an ambulance come to Covert, we got to question whether we have enough coverage here. So I just wanted to bring those two things up to you guys. Okay?
Thank you.
Okay.
Good evening, everyone. Bob Sherman, 250 North Shore Drive. I want to just speak for a moment regarding item 12 on the agenda regarding Wayne Pesina's property. I'm sure everyone recalls that at the last meeting when this was considered, the full council was not present and the vote was a 3-3 tie, so the item was not approved. I think without a huge amount of research, it seems that the timing, date-wise, was an issue here with the date of the 425 agreement and the transfer of the property from the prior owner to Mr. Pesina. And it seems likely, again, I can't testify absolutely, it seems likely that the notices did not necessarily go to the new owner, may well have gone to the prior owner, and that certainly put him at a disadvantage. Again, it seems that many of the parcels in that area it's almost like a patchwork. This one is in, and this one is out, and this one is in, and this one is out. A lot of inconsistency. So I'm going to strongly encourage council to act favorably on Mr. Pesina's request to remove his parcel from that 425 agreement. I think it's a worthy request and deserves your approval. Thanks.
Thank you.
Pat Gaston, 97 Superior Street. So I'm here to talk about the sign ordinance because I don't think that's not a public thing, so I guess. So, again, after living here for about 25 years, this is about my third or fourth go-around on the sign ordinance, which never seems to end. Seems like there's hours and hours of work by the city staff, the planning commission, the city council, and all that takes place, and we still seem to have some problems. So I guess one of my objectives tonight would be, I would like to have less. I sometimes think we're signed to death, where we can park, where we can turn, where the beach is, where the downtown is, on and on and on. Regardless, I'm just going to tell a little story. Several years ago, when the STR industry began, I would look down the block of my South Side residential neighborhood, and it would look like we were having a fire sale. Looking down the block, there seemed like many, many for sale and for rent signs. I felt like visitors would wonder if we were facing a disaster like arsenic in the water or something. Some realtors placed their signs more up by the house. Maybe lawn mowing was a factor there, I don't know. But many placed them smack dab in the middle of their front yard. So I placed many, and some people did put those up by the, good for them, they put them up by the house. So I placed a call to Jakeway Realtors and spoke with Mr. Jakeway. I mentioned that his signs were perfectly legal, but I just wanted to register a concern about how it all looked. That many of my neighbors were concerned about how it looked. I said I noticed that his company seemed involved in the community in Kalamazoo and seemed caring. I wondered if he would consider reorienting the signs up close to the house and parallel with the street. Just a request. You're doing everything legally. He called me back the next day and said he would have the agents do just that. That is the way they are today. Those kind of things, just kind of asking nicely, will always make you just feel good about that company or that firm. So is there a moral to this story? I leave that to you. I don't think it is possible to legislate nice. Maybe one of the solutions would be to just nicely ask if everyone would just relocate their signs up by the house and parallel to the street. I certainly think it would make our community look nicer, but that is just my opinion. Some won't like this solution. Some will like this solution. Some won't. It will be interesting to see who would voluntarily take this suggestion and who would not. I'm certainly not ready to put it in law. That's the end of my story.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Lisa Croupiers, 561 Indiana. First of all, item 10, I also hope that council will approve on behalf of Mr. Pacina for the same reasons that Planning Commissioner Sherman indicated. Also, I want to talk about the non-permanent signs, item 9. Fully support. I have quoted my friend Pat Gaston at previous meetings, exactly what she has said. The ordinance that you are looking at tonight is, what has been provided is precisely what residents have been asking not to have done. Honestly, the definition has been expanded to include the signs that the oversized, clunky, permanently displayed wooden signs we want to be eliminated from our landscape for the reasons Ms. Gaston said. Why can't these signs be modified to metal stakes? It's possible to do this. But instead, the Planning Commission has changed the definition of non-permanent signs to include the current signs as they currently exist. This is simply ludicrous. The Planning Commission writing zoning ordinance to accommodate this. One business, there's actually two, that have these big old wooden stakes, but 4x4 posts that go into the ground and require a tool to do that. Why can't these businesses comply with the ordinance as it was written before? The ordinance as written here could open a Pandora's box in our neighborhoods. I can only imagine that, well, if they can do it, we can. I mean, it's written into the ordinance now if you vote it through. Please do not approve this sign ordinance as it is written. Agenda item number 15, about the double hull solutions. This is another thing. After reading it, I spent this afternoon reading through that proposal, and honestly, it is written in a very detailed manner, exactly what Chris Brewster stood up here and in his assessment and summary of, evaluating whether we wanted lifeguards or whether lifeguards, how it would work here, he actually said there are several, what do they call them, subject matter experts that he could recommend that could work with our city to create a program. But instead, the city went in a total different direction, and this double hull solutions, their subject matter experts are $225 an hour. Double Hull Solutions has no expertise in lifeguards. And that is another thing, just, I don't know why, we had, when Chris Brewster was here, and Councilperson Onuki said, why can't we just start with something? We could have been that much further, or at least we could have had somebody who was working on a program. But this, going in this Double Hull Solutions, I totally oppose this, and I hope you will vote to oppose it as well. I also want to say, evaluating, on
You
agenda.
have 1 minute.
Thank you. On agenda item 16, regarding, actually, agenda item 16 is Police Chief, Interim Police Chief DeBoer. He is going to be speaking, but I did touch base with him before the meeting. On the newsroom, there is a notification about using fireworks during the holidays when they are allowed. It would be very much appreciated by residents and many people in the city if it could be indicated in that newsroom release that STRs where the owners are not present are not allowed to put off fireworks. So that would be very helpful if we could have that added to that newsroom release. Thank you.
Anybody else? If not, we're moving on to the consent agenda, items A through I.
I would move to approve consent agenda items A through G and I, and I would like to remove item H.
Second.
And I would like to, you removed H?
Yes.
I would like to remove G.
I'll second it.
Okay, we're moving,
G and H.
okay, we're moving G and H to, let's do 10B, 10B and C. Okay, can we have a roll call, please?
Of course. Arnold,
Yes.
Hasley,
Yes.
Onuki,
Yes.
Reeser,
Yes.
Sleeper,
Yes.
Wilkins,
Yes.
Brown.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Moving on to old business. Number 9, the city council will be asked to discuss and consider a motion to adopt the proposed zoning ordinance text amendments regarding non-permanent signs as recommended by the Planning Commission. An ordinance to amend sections 2201.02, 2201.07, and 2201.08 of the zoning ordinance for the city of South Haven. Kate?
Thank you, Mayor. This is our second reading of this ordinance, and as we all know, but maybe this is a good time for a primer, but ordinances need at least 2 readings. Code of ordinances need 2 readings, and then you have a public hearing at your second meeting. Zoning ordinances would have a public hearing at the Planning Commission. Here, this zoning ordinance has already had its Planning Commission public hearing, and what we have back here is a request for adoption. Now, we have talked a lot about signs, we've talked about this language. I've had some conversations with some of you all today. I know we had quite a robust discussion at our last meeting about different language, so what we have here is what's been proposed by the Planning Commission. I guess staff are looking for direction from council. Are we ready for an adoption, or is there more work needed on this ordinance?
Can you address Lisa Croupier's comments?
Yes, about, I think, and I'll have Dave tag in here too. I think we really want to understand, we have to have a content neutral ordinance. We know that's the Supreme Court of the law. But I guess we're trying to figure out if this definition doesn't meet muster what council's looking for, what do we need to do to get it where you need to go? Dave, is there anything else you'd add?
No, I think that's right, Kate. And it, as we talked last time, it can be frustrating with the new Supreme Court, fairly new Supreme Court precedents dictating, what content-based discrimination in sign ordinances looks like. Because as we had talked at the last meeting, prior to Reed, which is a United States Supreme Court case, many municipalities were making these distinctions that many of the residents want. People had gotten used to that, but the legal landscape had changed. So we're playing by the current set of rules, which largely, in many ways, restricts what council can and can't do constitutionally in a sign ordinance. I think many of these frustrations from the public and comments were also expressed at Planning Commission, and Planning Commission did a very thorough job trying to figure out the best way to go about imposing these regulations, trying to do the best they could within what the law allows to get at what they could get at. Now, of course, as we discussed last time, this is, Planning Commission makes a recommendation. They had a very thorough discussion. City Council is the legislative body that has the final stamp of approval. So we can always have more conversation here, but again, depending on what changes may be requested by this body, that may require things going back to planning just to comply with the requirements of the Zoning Enabling Act.
Any questions? Joe?
Yeah, I remember the last meeting, and you outlined, and I think maybe Kate chimed in, about the legalities as you just did. It still comes down to the community has a concern about too many commercial properties on their streets. That's STRs. Now, to put salt in the wound, in my opinion, we turn around and say, not only do we have to have short-term rentals on our streets, now we have to have signs. Not just a sign like a realtor when they put a sign up, which they snap it into the ground, it's up for X number of months and it comes out, which nobody complains. Actually, people prosper from that, including our community, being able to sell a home, not let it sit. But these signs for short-term rentals, some of them, and in particular, there's a couple companies that seem to have the largest signs. I defy anyone to take that sign and pick it up and try to put it physically into the ground without some means of digging a hole so that post can go in. So as a layman, not a lawyer, it doesn't seem to me to be a temporary sign when it takes that much to put it into the ground, let alone take it out. So the word that came to mind is portability. Is it portable? Can you pick it up and move it? Everybody that's in this room, everybody in this town that's running for an office can pick up their signs, pop them out, put them back in, and move them. You cannot do this with the signs that we all know we're talking about in the community. So is that a possibility legally to use the word portability and make an ordinance around that? Because they are, in my humble opinion, they're not portable at all. Is that one way of approaching this? Because it seems like legally, things can be turned down because of words, and then put the words differently, meaning the same thing, and it can pass. So is there any wiggle room to get this done? Because ultimately, you're working for council. Council works for the residents, and the residents overwhelmingly, a gentleman stood up and said he acts like he knows what the residents want. I've been a city council member for 7 years, and I talk to them, and they do not overwhelmingly want these signs in their community. Now, they're willing to take temporary signs. They're willing to take small signs that can be put in and taken out. But these signs that are up for years, literally, don't fit in with our community. So is there anything that can be done?
I think what you're getting at is something I think you and I had discussed at the last meeting, which is although the language of the ordinance uses non-permanent and permanent signs, the substance of the definition is very much getting at the issue of portability. So if you want, if council thinks it would be helpful to change those definitions to instead say non-permanent sign to say portable, and as opposed to permanent sign to say non-portable, that's definitely something that we can do, because I think that also accurately reflects the substance of the definition. And using terms like that may help the readers not start from a premise of permanence. I understand as a practical matter how somebody could read permanent and ignore the substance of the definition because they're still permanent is what is, it's in their headspace. So that's definitely an option. Now, I don't know if it gets to exactly what you're asking about, because I do think the definitions as substantively written are largely getting at permanent versus portability versus non-portability. And we can talk about, if there are specifics, we can definitely discuss ways that which council may like to see those definitions amended. But again, I think Kelly can attest to it also, but there was a lot of discussion about these definitions at planning. That doesn't mean council can't, decide what council wants to do and make changes. My caution there is just that, one, we may end up as a matter of law needing to go back to the planning commission, which is perfectly fine. But two, to understand that sometimes if we have a discussion here, there may be things that Kelly and I may not be able to fully articulate the second and third order effects of that decision in a discussion that's, in the next 15 minutes. And that's an advantage to what happened at Planning Commission is they looked at it multiple times and were able to talk about, okay, this sounds good. Well, we came back the next meeting and somebody with our office or Kelly or one of the planning commissioners said, yeah, but look what it does here. And it's like, oh, okay, that kind of takes that move off the board. So I definitely welcome if there's any specifics you'd like to discuss, I'm happy to discuss them. I know it's a really long way of answering your question, so I think it's a yes, but.
So let me turn it around. I would challenge you. Don't challenge me to come up with the verbiage. I challenge you, the lawyer, to come up with verbiage that reflects the needs and wants of the community. And I'm not speaking for all city council, but I think some of us don't want these large, what we call permanent signs in our neighborhoods. So I would challenge you, the lawyer, to come up with the verbiage and then see if we can make it work. I'm not asking to have it sent back to the Planning Commission. I think they did an excellent job with a whole lot of this. It's a hard issue. As Pat Gaston said, this stuff goes around and around and around, and nobody wants to talk about what's nice and what's fair and what's good for the community. So it all comes down to legality. So if you could do that, instead of sending it back to planning, and work on coming back to us with verbiage that would work.
Well, I think when planning discussed this, our office provided up to 10 examples, and this is largely the result of the planners saying this gets as close as we can get to what we want to get at, and our office saying this gets as what we think for legally is a good spot to land in. So if council would like to review the other examples we provided, that's fine. We're happy to do that. But at some point, we need very specific direction from council, because this is a product that our office has reviewed and are comfortable with. So, and again, we're happy to do whatever council wants, but it's, I'm not trying to be coy, to simply say to us, we want different options, it's like, okay, but we really got to, at this point in the game, we really need to be specific in terms of what council is looking for, and then we can go down that road.
Can you explain to Mr. Reeser why you have to be content neutral, so you can't say this is about short-term rental signs?
And that's the result of READ, is really we have to be content neutral, which again, as we talked last time, it was a fairly recent court case. So the rules of the game have changed, and to get at what I'm hearing many residents want, what is no STR signs, that is inherently content-based discrimination.
But what I'm asking you for is not to be specific for short-term rentals. I'm saying any sign that is of that nature that can't be put into the ground without equipment and pulled out easily, in my opinion, is not a non-permanent sign. So I'm just using short-term rentals as an example, because everyone in this community knows what we're talking about. There's two companies specifically that seem to be doing it the most. So let's call the elephant in the room the elephant. And we don't have to put it in the legal terminology when you do the work.
When if you want to talk about tools, some people could just is the use of a hammer, that's a tool. So now you could have something that is it's a very thin metal stake holding up a sign, but it was driven in by a hammer, so now that's a tool. So you are, in a sense, on that sense, you're arguably casting a net far too wide. If you're talking about disturbance in the ground, well, anytime dirt is displaced, there's technically a disturbance in the ground, so now are we talking about how many square inches of soil are displaced? A nice thing, and I'm not saying this is perfect, but a nice thing about this is that it takes into consideration all of those things where legislating in such detail actually ends up being unhelpful, because the net becomes so wide that it really ends up having the effect of precluding almost every sign, which leads to other constitutional issues. If you want to talk about, as I believe was discussed at Planning Commission, well, do they intend to leave it out permanently? Well, now you're asking us to look at an individual's intent and how long they intend to leave a sign out. And frankly, if you get to a point where you're legislating in such minute detail on something like this, members of the community, as anybody would, will just simply adapt. So, for example, I don't want to put like time restraints back on the table necessarily, because I think those were discussed already, and I think council was okay with not having time limits for the reasons discussed. But if, for example, you said, well, you can only have a sign up for 30 days, if I move it 5 feet in the other direction, is that still up for 30 days? If I say have the same print in a different color, and it's a different sign, but it's a different sign, it says the same thing. So those are the concerns our office has in terms of legislation that tries to get into these details, or in some sense tries to be too smart by half, because it will end up leading to practical issues with enforcement for Kelly and interpretation issues for Kelly, and then our office will have to handle the resulting court cases. So again, I'm not saying this is perfect, but what I am saying is a lot of the things that you are bringing up, and rightfully so, were discussed at planning and reviewed by our office and Kelly, and there were reasons that many of those things were not incorporated into this definition. There are many reasons why we landed here. Again, council's the boss, so if council wants to change it, we can. But just with the context of a lot of those things, there's reasons why something may or may not have been put in.
The proposed definition reads, for non-permanent signs may be displayed on a pole or a stake affixed to the ground. Each individual sign shall not exceed 6 square feet in area, and the combined area for all signs on a lot shall not exceed 24 square feet. As we talked, the top of such signs shall be no more than 6 feet above the ground level. Signs may display non-commercial messages or on-premise commercial messages, including but not limited to messages conveying that the dwelling is for sale, that work is being performed on the dwelling by a particular individual or business, or that a garage sale will be held. Those are just 3 examples, but they're not they don't preclude other ones. I think what I focus on is non-permanent signs may be displayed on a pole or a stake affixed to the ground. Maybe that's just putting it in, but when I hear affixed, I think of it as some manner of it being posted or put out there. I mean, is that the thing, is that we want to focus on how it's affixed?
I think, Kate, that was the definition, in the current definition.
Oh, I beg your
Yeah.
pardon.
The definition in the proposed ordinance for non-permanent, for everybody listening, says any sign not permanently affixed to the ground or a building that is capable of being easily moved from place to place, kind of getting at what we were talking about with portability. Examples of non-permanent signs include, but are not limited to, yard signs on metal stakes, banners, A-frame signs, feather signs, and signs with a wooden or metal support that are placed into the ground without a permanent foundation. And then permanent signs reads, any sign permanently affixed to the ground or a building or that is incapable of being easily moved from place to place.
So the word easily moved, doesn't that have any merit? Because the signs we're talking about are not easily moved.
Kate, haven't you seen one of these signs easily moved?
I have, and I think that's part of the reason why we're here, is that there's concerns that they are not easily moved.
Mary?
Yes. So yes, at the April 10th Planning Commission meeting, there were several examples of different versions of signs. But really, I don't believe there's been much change from what the legal counsel had recommended. And I know that people at the May meeting took issue with affixed and took more issue with the use of the term being used in the definition. And I think there is concern also with what, and case in point, what does easily moved mean? Putting a 4x4 or 3x3 wooden support in the ground, I don't think everyone with whom I've spoken, and as I've gone around door to door, says that's a permanent sign. It's irrelevant whether there's a permanent foundation, cement foundation. It is, do you need a hole digger? Do you need some type of tool to make a hole for it to be put in? And it's not content-based, and I would appreciate it if you remove that. It's just, as Councilman Reeser said, it is a specific sign that has resulted in a concern of what is and is not permanent. The message on it is irrelevant. It is the size of the sign, the amount of work that's taken to put it in, and the inability to simply lift it out and put it in another location without the use of a hole digger. And that is, I believe, what the concern has been of residents. It's not short-term rental-based, and it's inappropriate to say it is. It's not content-based. It is structure-based. And these signs are huge. And especially if we are going to be allowing signs for home or home use for commercial purposes, exactly what Ms. Gaston was saying. You know, just line and line and line of signs. And that is not what our residential community should be looking like. So I do believe, and I have faith in legal counsel, to be able to come back to us with a definition for non-permanent or portable or temporary. I mean, all three of those words have occurred throughout the various definitions that we've seen. To address these large signs on large wooden supports, and I think one thing that causes some concern is the vagueness that was in the original definition was not made less vague, because easily moved was an area of concern that has not been resolved, as mentioned tonight. And of more concern is, in the examples, you reinforce that a wooden support of any size will be a non-permanent sign. And that is just contrary to the concerns we were raised, and it's as if our concerns were not even heard in that respect. Because those signs are not easily moved by one of, reasonable body stature, or, and you cannot put that in the ground without a tool. And I appreciate
So is the request then to remove, like, just then, so no 4x4, you want us to be very specific about that? And maybe we need
No.
to get smaller signs then too?
Kate,
if
you've
that's-
interrupted me, please let me
Excuse
finish.
me. Let her talk. She's the city manager. Go ahead, Kate.
Councilman Reeser got to ask his questions and make his comments without being interrupted,
Right.
and would ask for
Hey,
comments.
we're letting Kate comment.
I'm just looking for
Let
some
her
direction,
comment.
that's all.
And I'm not finished. So, for this, it can be content neutral. The concern that was raised with regard to whether a tool needed to be used was the unintended effect on realtor signs, which some of them are very large, and they would need to use a tool. And that's why, because we can control by time, place, and manner, a time factor may be beneficial because, again, it's content neutral. And business signs really are intended for 24/7, 365, but realtor signs are intended for the length of time that the home is up for sale with that realtor. So it certainly seems like there could be some happy medium in there where there is clarity about what is easily moved. It does or does not need tools and time, place, manner to better address the concerns that the residents raised and I think several of the city council members raised.
Kate, can you finish?
I'm looking for clarity, so if you have a problem with the 4x4 posts, if that's what you're looking for, are we looking to lower the sign from 6 feet? I guess I'm looking for specific criteria that you'd like to see so that we can actually get something passed.
Well, as we've discussed, specific criteria make it too narrowly, the net too narrowly cast. So,
This
you
can't
know,
be a
I think
catch-22
clarity would come from easily moved. What does easily moved mean?
So this is one of the hard things about a zoning ordinance, is that you need to be sufficiently descriptive and precise without being overly descriptive and precise. And for example, yes, if we talk about not having 4x4 posts, that's going to impact realtor signs. If we talk about time issues, that time issues is a whole different can of worms. There are concerns our office has expressed regarding those, such as justification for the time duration, because the governmental concerns in those situations are largely the same, i.e., aesthetics and things like that. Doesn't matter the duration of the sign necessarily. And there's issues with, given the restrictive nature of our permanent sign provisions, it raises concerns about ample channels of communication. So again, these are all things that we're happy to look into or provide a memo on if council would like us to do that. But there's, and again, I'm not saying this is perfect, but I'm trying to be responsive to the concerns I'm hearing from council, because that's my job. But also part of my job is sometimes to tell you the bad news. And I think in this case, the bad news may be residents want A, we've got as close to A as we can, and if we keep going in a certain direction, we're going to run into either constitutional issues, or we're going to run into just issues of practicality, like regarding a tool, or subjective intent, or time frames, which can easily be circumvented or result in other constitutional issues given other provisions of the sign ordinance. And I will speak to because it keeps coming up, the concerns regarding using a term in the definition as it's been discussed is a red herring. And that is because non-permanent signs in this situation is a noun, a proper noun, and the use of the sign not permanently affixed is being used as an adjective. It's describing the sign. It's not permanently affixed. So I just want to, I think we can put that to bed, is that the rule we all learned in grade school of don't use the term of the definition doesn't apply in the situation.
Jeff?
I think my question is quick. It seems like Mary and Joe are focused on the 4x4, and if we can figure out how to get rid of that for them. So for the realtors that use those, do we have to worry about a taking? Will they say, oh, all right, well, then you need to pay for my new signs, because they've been using these for years. In the 80s, my parents had Century 21 that sold my childhood house, and they used the 4x4 like they still use today.
I'd be more concerned about the First Amendment issues in terms of your sign ordinance being, in violation of the First Amendment, something like that, yeah.
So a realtor couldn't then say, you've outlawed my signs, I need to be reimbursed?
I never,
Okay.
because people can allege all sorts of things. The cause of action I would be most concerned about would be a
That'd be
First Amendment,
bigger.
would be
Okay.
a First Amendment challenge. Now, there may be fact specifics in a situation where a takings type claim would be appropriate. And again, I'm not trying to be the no guy here. If there are very specific things that the council wants to talk about, again, I'm more than happy to do that. Again, 'cause I do realize that sometimes I sit here and just say, no, you can't do that. That's not what my intent is.
Wendy, did you have a question or comment?
I do agree with what Joe said earlier, and I'd like to see that worked out before we approve the sign ordinance. And my original thought before, what Jeff said was wondering if we could just put signs with thin wooden or metal supports just to kind of get rid of the 4x4s, but then that sounds like the realtors have the same support, and that wouldn't work.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear talking about thin metal or support.
I was just asking about.
I think that
Yeah.
results, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I think that just results in the whole, okay, well, if you tell me I can't use a 4x4, I will use a 3.5 by 3.5 or something like that, you know?
Gotcha. So yeah, I would like to see it reworked a little bit before we move forward with it.
Any other comments? George?
Yeah, so I don't have a problem with city council setting priorities for planning commission in the development of the zoning ordinance. What I do have a problem with, though, is us here up at city council, without the benefit of the members of planning commission that have citizen planner certificates and all the experience that they've had in crafting zoning ordinance, us spending the last meeting and this meeting basically rehashing what the planning commission talked about and trying to come up on the fly with new words for our zoning ordinance. And the planning commission did the best they could. If we don't like it, fine, let's send it back to planning commission with better guidance. But I really do have a problem with us here, not really zoning experts, trying to come up with a new zoning ordinance without going through the planning commission. And I think the planning commission did a good job. We're just up here discussing the same things that they discussed, and they came up with what we have in front of us, and I think it's a good compromise.
Joe?
Yeah, two things. One, this is completely out of the box, but you never know. You talked about temporary, non-temporary, adjective, noun, and all that. Could we throw out temporary and non-temporary and just say, here's what we want in these districts in terms of signage, or what we don't want? Would that make it legally any better? Probably not, but I'm asking.
I think we do that in the best way you can, as opposed to saying we want our neighborhoods to look like this as opposed to this, like taking a form-based zoning approach to signage, which I guess would be a little weird. So I don't think so. I think there's more regarding permanent signs. I think you have the option to get more at a form-based look for zoning, which form-based zoning is more of regulating the aesthetic look of something. So as opposed to saying, it's common use we're not going to necessarily talk about the type of use that goes in this district, but we're going to talk about what the building looks like, because that's what we really care about. For permanent signs, regulating the aesthetics may make sense depending on what the other aesthetic regulations are in that district. But for non-permanent signs, I don't think that would serve you well.
Okay. And my second comment, I've heard this twice now, 2 different meetings, and I've got to address it. I appreciate everything the Planning Commission does. Their job, as I see it, is to do the research, investigate it, do all the work that needs to be done to help us make a decision. But I'm sorry, I don't consider them any more experts than we are. We all have our strengths and our negatives. But we got an intelligent group of 7 people sitting up here, and our job is to take the research, the information they gave us, evaluate it, and make a decision, or try to change it to make it better. To me, I've always said 2 heads are better than 1. We got 7 heads up here. I see no problem doing that. I know for the audience, I know for people watching, and for us sitting here, it is frustrating at times to go around and around on these issues. That's the way you get a better product, in my opinion. And I do think we are very educated up here. We have teachers, we have an engineer, we have a lawyer, we have a successful business person. We can make decisions, and we can say, yeah, this is really good, but we want this better. And I don't see where that is in any way a criticism of the Planning Commission, nor diminishing what they've done. And I'm tired of people saying that in any way that is diminishing them, because it's not. I have read this, I have read even the minutes when they've talked among themselves, and they've had the same kind of dialogue over it. So we're doing the same thing. And I'd like to think that the 7 us reviewing what they've done may just come up with a better product in the end than we started with. That's it.
Go ahead.
Joe, I appreciate your comments, but I would say that I've heard Kate directly say it once, and Dave has said it twice politely, that they want to do that for us, but they're begging us to tell them how. They can't make up the language. They need us to make up the language, and they'll give it to us.
Okay, is there a motion?
Yeah, I move to request a revised definition for non-permanent and permanent signs, whether it's retains that name or not, is up to legal counsel, from legal counsel, where each definition takes into consideration the discussions we made tonight, and preferably, based on material presented to the Planning Commission, avoids having to send it back.
Do you have that, Megan?
For the most part, yes.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Any more discussion?
Yes.
Go ahead.
I think then, good motion. But now we need to tell them what we want then. You're saying go and revise it. Then their first question is to be, revise it to what? So what are we
Well,
revising it to?
it's based, I think, on Joe's comments, my comments, Wendy supporting our comments.
So maybe we're saying it for me then. What are we revising it to?
If I may, if the definitions are revised, that would necessitate sending the ordinance back to the Planning Commission for a public hearing at the Planning Commission level. It's a substantial revision to the document that was presented to you.
Thank you.
I'm fine with that.
Before we vote, I just want to say, I've been the mayor for 1.5 years, and before that, I campaigned for 1 year, and nobody ever said to me, I'm really upset about these signs. Not one person. And Pat Gaston lives 2 blocks away from me. She never has come to my house or called me or emailed me and said, Annie, now that you're on city council, you should be really concerned about these signs. Okay, could we have a roll call, please? Would you want to read the motion again, please?
Yes, so what I have is to request a revised definition for non-permanent and permanent signs. Whether it retains that name or not can be up to legal counsel, but whether it retains that name or not, from legal, where each definition takes into consideration the discussions we had tonight and material provided to the Planning Commission without requiring it to be sent back.
Okay, roll call?
I think I said preferably, so and Kelly said it would have to be, so.
Okay.
Dave?
I've heard what members of council have expressed. I think those concerns were previously raised at the planning commission. And I'm not saying that to say that you can't make up your own mind, but what I am saying is we're gonna need a little bit more specific direction because we've discussed, debated, and gone over the concerns as I've heard them that have been raised. So for me and Kelly to go back to planning and say, city council wants us to look at these things, one, they're gonna look at us like we're crazy, but two, they're gonna say, okay, we've looked at them and we like where we ended up on those issues the first time. So without a little bit more specificity, I feel like we're just gonna be turning our wheels. So again, we want desperately to give council what it wants. We just gotta have a little more clear direction on what that is.
And the planning commission, oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Planning Commission considered definitions from American Planning Association, from several other professional planning organizations, 5 model sign codes, as well as definitions from the city of Walker, from the city of Ferndale, from the city of Grand Rapids, and the city of Holland, as well as an out-of-state municipality in California. So the Planning Commission reviewed many definitions. I believe Councilmember Hosley presented a couple of definitions as well from different municipalities while we were at Planning Commission. And as Attorney Eberly stated, I'm not opposed to going back to Planning Commission and asking for something different. I just think we need more specific information about what it is that you'd like to be different.
And if it's just putting together details of what they've, in a more memo-like format, what they've already talked about, and that we'll talk about again, that's fine too. Like if there's, hey, we really want to know more of your reasoning on the posts or the tools, we can say, look, council understands you guys already talked about this, but they wanted it in a more digestible format as to why you decided not to go that direction. If that's what you want, we can do that. But I just want to make sure that's what you want.
Okay, Wendy.
Yeah, thank you. I'm trying to be careful here of my words, but it sounds like we're getting pushback saying we're not allowed to decide, that we have to accept, but then you're going around and saying they've already talked about this. We're saying we don't want to accept this definition, so please ask them to adjust it. It shouldn't be a, no, we can't do that. That's our job. We're the elected officials. We represent our constituents. We're saying this doesn't fit the bill of what we're looking for.
I think it's
so
very-
why can we not send this back with suggestions for portability, for the use of tools, and say, this is what we want, please work around this. And it's fine that they discussed it before and that they decided as a whole body they don't like it, but we're asking for that. So have the discussion again and bring us back something that we'll vote for. I don't understand why this is so divisive.
If I understand, I think what we're trying to say is that we do work for council, and that's what we're looking for, but we wanted to know exactly what you're looking for. Is it smaller signs? Is no wooden stakes? Is it using tools? That's the kind of detail, I guess, we're looking for, because we've been working on this for quite a bit. So we're trying to give you what you want. So if those three things are what's on the table or on the menu, then just confirm it.
Okay.
Then what?
And
Sorry, then what?
Confirm it.
No wooden stakes, smaller signs, no
So
tools. I mean,
portability
I mean,
definition.
Well, since Mary's on planning commission, can't she bring her points up at the planning commission meeting?
Point of
It's not
order,
from
there,
just Mary. It's from several people on council.
and residents. Thank you, Wendy.
if I understand correctly, there is a motion to
Yes.
bring back language to this body. I think it'd be
Yeah.
better if you all saw a definition before it was sent to the planning commission.
Exactly.
Okay.
And I was just going to add to what Wendy was saying, I don't think it's no wooden stakes. And that's my concern, is our point appears to still get missed. And the reason we are here is because there was a determination that easily moved applied to a sign. And again, it's looking at the sign per se. It's irrelevant of the subject matter on the sign. But I do not think reasonable minds would differ that a 4 6-inch wooden post is anything but permanent because of how deep it would have to be driven into the ground. And so I'm not looking for distance into the ground, but it really revolves around easily movable. And because there is so much discretion, and Planning Commissioner Sherman raised that as an issue, but it was not readily discussed to really better explain it, and I think that's the crux. Easily moved. I think that's where there's a differing opinion of what easily moved means. And if you can better define that, I think that would help us get further ahead.
Okay,
I have a comment on that.
go ahead.
I say this with a police officer in the room, but I think the statute of limitations has run out. That in my youth, I fractured a few laws, and I never met a sign that wasn't easily moved. We had a band director on our street, and we put all the yard signs in his yard, and so I would struggle with easily moved.
George?
Not being.
So I would suggest, Joe, you talk to someone on Planning Commission about how us sending an ordinance back to them is not, how does that make them feel? Because I can see what's going to happen if we send this back to Planning Commission. They're going to say, we talked all about this. This is the words we came up with. The majority of the Planning Commission approved these words. If you don't like it, you do what you want, but we're just going to send back the same thing we sent you the first time.
Yep. Okay, roll call, please.
Hasley,
Yes.
Onuki,
Yes.
Reeser,
Yes.
Sleeper,
No.
Wilkins,
Yes.
Arnold,
No.
Brown,
No.
motion carries.
Okay, moving on. The city council will be asked to consider a renewed request to remove Wayne Piscina's property at 09160 M140 from the 425 agreement. Kate?
This is being brought back to you as requested by 2 council members. I think we've talked about it enough. We've had a public hearing. What would council like to do?
Okay. Mary?
I would move to remove Mr. Piscina's property from the 425 agreement and approve Resolution 2025-24, a resolution authorizing the Second Amendment to the 425 agreement, correcting any typographical errors as needed.
And that's a renewed motion?
A renewed motion from before, except for the typographical error.
Is there a second?
A second.
Any discussion? Remind us why the city staff is advising us not to do this.
Well, we pulled in all these, and we pulled in a number of parcels to assist with the redevelopment of that area. It's a challenging thoroughfare and needed some assistance. We worked on this prior, with my predecessor, as a matter of fact. There was lots of conversations with the with the Charter Township and city staff, and not every lot was pulled in because not every lot needed the help with the commercial rehab. So yes, it does look like a patchwork, but it was very thoughtfully done. If council wants to remove this one, then that's council's wish.
Roll call, please.
Yes, of course. Onuki,
Yes.
Reeser,
Yes.
Sleeper,
Yes.
Wilkins,
Yes.
Arnold,
No.
Hasley,
Yes.
Brown,
No.
motion carries.
Thank you. Now, 10B, which is,
G.
let's do item H on the consent agenda. Council will be asked to approve the summer youth recreation agreements with Bobby Walker Ministries and Resurrection Life Church.
I was the one that moved to remove it, and just simply for procedural reasons. So I would move to approve the youth recreational agreement with Resurrection Life Church. Please excuse Councilmember Wilkins from voting on the matter due to a potential conflict of interest.
Is there, oh, sorry, was that it? Was there a second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Reeser,
Yes.
Sleeper,
Yes.
Wilkins abstained, Arnold,
Yes.
Hasley,
Yes.
Onuki,
Yes.
and Brown.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. And now, What was that?
Consent G,
Yep, G.
the
Oh,
rec.
Item G, council will be asked to consider approval of updated community recreation director agreement with South Haven Public Schools. Kate?
Thank you, Mayor. In speaking with the school, they were trying to hire for the part-time position. Ultimately, they had two candidates, but ultimately both candidates opted of dropping out. One of the candidates did mention that they would be more interested in this if they had benefits. That was not being contemplated with the part-time position. We've talked with the school and the Charter Township and the Shara folks, and they're recommending that we go to a full-time position. This does not change the city's $90,000 that we've already committed to that. Any overages for this position would be covered by Shara.
And Joe, you're on the Shara board. Do you have an opinion on this?
We're having our meeting tomorrow to come to a conclusion.
Okay, well, we're voting tonight.
I know, so I'll vote, but I can't do it with
Can't speak on it.
Okay.
knowledge of what Shara's going to say.
Okay. Any other, Mary?
Yes, so I requested this out of the consent agenda. My concern is that we give Shara, is it $8 per capita now? And then we are also giving them $90,000 out of our millage, rec millage. And if they are going to cover the difference, I would like to know exactly what the pay and the whole benefit package would be for this full-time rec. I think we owe it to our taxpayers to be transparent so that we know how our rec millage is being spent and how much would actually be left over for the programs themselves.
Well, the Charter Township also funds Shara as well as the Visitors Bureau or Visit South Haven. So I believe that Shara does have the funding for this, and this would cover their first year. We'll have to reassess for next year. As to how much will be needed, I guess we'll have to cross that bridge when we get there.
And that's why I just would really like to know, I mean, I raised this before about the $90,000 and how much would be going for salary, how much would be left over for the programs. Couldn't answer the questions then. And I just think we owe it to our constituents who voted this in and are relying on having recreation programs for youth up to seniors, so that we know what percentage of that millage is actually going for the person and the person's benefits versus the programs.
So the long and the short of it is people cost money. The school has
Yes.
to offer benefits just like the city does.
Correct.
And when we talked about this position, the city and the town, the city and the school were was going to be the natural home for this position because we have HR and we have all the support. Shara is an entity that doesn't have an HR department. They don't have equipment. So this was not going to be a Shara, it wasn't going to be homed with a Shara, and we thought this would be the best fit was going to have it with the school since, well, they have a majority of the facilities we would be using.
No, I know, and that was discussed before, but I would like to have a better understanding if it's going from part-time now to full-time, and benefits, is it going to be another 90,000, so the whole package is 180,000, which is 3/4 of the millage?
I don't believe it's going to be a whole nother 90,000, but I don't know exactly what the benefits the school has, but they have something commensurate to us. Maybe not as good as us, but they have similar
It's South
benefits.
Haven Public Schools benefits.
No, I know, but we would be covering that cost, correct? The school
No,
would
I
not.
told you, I believe I wrote it in here that we are covering the 90,000. Anything above that, that is Shara and the Charter Township have agreed to do that. So that's what we are locked in for right now is the 90,000 for this year. We'll have to reassess for next year. It's a 2-year agreement.
Well, if it's a 2-year, then we would not be assessing for 2 years. But what the package says is Shara would be covering the difference.
That's correct.
And just trying to appreciate exactly how the money is being dispersed. Because again, we're giving Shara money out of our taxes, out of the rec millage, and I want to ensure that there's ample leftovers for the actual programs. So, because before, the 90,000 was for part-time, if it's now all going to go for the full-time, then that, my understanding was with the 90,000, there would be some left for the program itself. But now it appears it would be all for the
Yes.
wages.
They were unable to
and
hire a
benefits.
person at part-time. So if we want a community recreation director, we're going to have to go full-time.
Correct, but is that 90,000 all going to be used for salary and benefits? Is any going to be left over for the program?
We'll have to assess and see what they're hiring at.
So you have no idea what
I
the,
have a good idea about what they're looking to hire, but again, I think it's around 65,000 is what they're looking to hire for.
for full-time?
That's correct, for full-time.
Okay. Megan, Joe.
At the last meeting, a resident stood up and who, you could almost say, expert in this particular area. He lived in Illinois in a small town, and he did get involved very much with parks and recreation. And he believes that a full-time parks recreation director is needed in this town. He said it all along. So I think that kind of supports this. He also gave Scott some advice on where to find these people, and he gave him, I just looked at my cell phone, and it said Michigan State University Park and Recreation, and then the second one is Michigan Park and Recreation Association. So that's two resources they could look at for candidates, but he did feel you really need a full-time director. Part-time's not going to cut. And a lot of us, even at 90,000, is less than full-time, of course, but either you're all in or you're not in at all sometimes. And I think this is one of those cases we have to put both feet in and be in it and then see how it works out. But that's my opinion. I would
Thank you.
support it.
George.
I don't feel the need to have the details that Member Hosley is looking for. I feel it's important to get this offer out there, to get this position filled so we can start getting the benefit of it. And the only reason I can see of getting that more information is if we're going to try to renegotiate something, and I don't want to delay this anymore.
Thank you. Megan, let's have a roll call.
I need a motion first.
What?
We need a motion first, please.
Oh,
I make
okay,
a motion to
sorry.
approve consent agenda item G.
Second?
And I just had two other comments. Jack Fitzer had also provided Illinois Parks Rec, so he actually had provided 3 places to advertise to find excellent candidates. And I want to thank Kate for saying that the posting would be, the job would be reposted so that, because a part-time would have different responses than the full-time. So hopefully we'll get the right mix.
Okay, so we've got a motion and a second. Okay, roll call, please.
Sleeper,
Yes.
Wilkins,
Yes.
Arnold,
Yes.
Hosley,
Yes.
Onuki,
Yes.
Reeser,
Yes.
and Brown.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. New business, the city council will be asked to consider approval of a budget amendment for the fiscal year 2024-25 and authorize the finance director to amend the budget as stated within the report. Kate?
Thank you. This is routine business for us. This is what we do at the second meeting in June. That is our budget amendment. We have Finance Director Michelle Argue here to kind of go over this report, and I apologize, it was put in your packet twice, so you got to read it twice if you wanted to.
It's that important.
Michelle?
Okay, the report is in there, and there's the totals at the bottom. We had original budget revenues of $50,381,244. We are looking to amend the revenues to $54,891,108. And then on expenditures, we had original budget of $51,732,668. And we're going to amend the expenditures to $50,573,486.
Any questions? Mary?
I just, for the expenses for the cemetery perpetual fund, do you have any details of what caused that extra 180,000?
Under the cemetery perpetual fund, there were no expenditures. I'm not sure what you were looking at.
So, on,
There were no expenses budgeted. I believe that the changes that you're seeing there are from interest, revenues from interest and market value adjustments.
okay,
Yeah, it's just on the revenue side.
okay. And then the motor pool had an increased expense of 580,000. What?
The changes in that fund were mostly because of repairs and maintenance supplies increasing.
Okay.
Any
Thanks.
other questions? Okay, is there a motion to amend the budget as stated within the report?
I make a motion to approve the budget amendment for fiscal year 2024-25 and authorize the finance director to amend the budget as stated within the report.
Support?
All in favor, say yes.
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 Opposed? The motion passes. Thank you so much, Michelle, for all your work. We appreciate your hard work and attention to all the details. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Number 12, the city council will be asked to consider approval of the following special event applications. A, special event 2025-33, Play Palooza 2025, to be held on July 26, 2025, beginning at 11 a.m. with setup to begin at 9 a.m. until 4 p.m. at Riverfront Park. And B, special event 2025-34, Barbecue 2025, to be held on August 8, 2025, beginning at 4 and ending at 8 p.m., to be held during the Blueberry Festival in the Huron Street Pavilion.
I make a motion to approve special event 2025-33 and 2025-34 as read by the mayor.
Support.
Any discussion? All in favor say yes.
Yes.
Opposed? The motion passes. 13, the city council will be asked to receive a staffing presentation from South Haven Area Emergency Services Executive Director Brandon Hins.
Good evening, Ms. Mayor, members of City Council. I asked to stop by this evening to give a state of our department currently and discuss some of the hurdles we've encountered over these past few months and years, as well as some of the solutions I've presented to our authority board. But I would like to give a quick rundown of how our department was established and the services we provide and how we provide them. In 1888, South Haven Fire Department was organized. Throughout the years, needs increased, services increased. We transitioned from a volunteer fire department to a combination full-time department as we are today, paid on call and career member, fire-based EMS Advanced Life Support Transport Service. In 1996, South Haven City, South Haven Township, Casco Township, and Geneva Township all agreed that sharing this service would benefit all entities, both financially and operationally. And this joint effort forming the South Haven Area Emergency Services has worked out extremely well. We're funded mainly by two methods, tax revenues and EMS billing revenues. In a nutshell, SHAE's annual budget is based upon property value and population, divided amongst the municipalities that we serve, and based upon their respective property values and population. Annually, SHAE's evaluates the equalization reports for taxable values, then calculates the amounts charged to the municipalities with increases or decreases of property values and increases or decreases upon population, which of course only occurs every 10 years. Our other main revenue in our budget is EMS billings. When SHAE's responds to an EMS call and we transport a patient to the hospital, we bill the insurance companies or Medicare or Medicaid. Out of the nearly 3,000 incidents per year that we respond to, 53% of those incidents are billable EMS transports. But unfortunately, out of those 53% of these incidents, 1,500, 1,600 incidents per year, we only recoup about 50% of our costs. So that's not just a Shays local issue, that's a nationwide issue that myself and I'm sure all agency heads along or across the nation have voiced their opinions of. I know I have, to our state leaders and federal and government leaders. As mentioned, Shays is a combination department, career and paid on call. We are staffed 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We provide fire and EMS, advanced life support, transport in our 97 square miles. Advanced life support is not common on this side of the state. It's not common in the nation, quite honestly, because it isn't easy. It's hard. Not only do our members have to be proficient firefighters, but they also have to be proficient emergency medical technicians. When we respond to a medical scene, we don't just stabilize the patient and turn them over to an ambulance. We arrive on scene with an ambulance. We stabilize the patient. We treat the patient. We transport the patient to the hospital. Start to finish, it's the hardest service to provide, but it's the best for our community, and it's the one that we believe in. Our service boasts a 5-minute, 49-second response time, average EMS response time over the course of 97 square miles. This includes emergent and non-emergent response. Nationwide emergency EMS response is 7 minutes. Nationwide non-emergency EMS response is 18 minutes and 35 seconds. And there's communities around us that are waiting 20 to 30 minutes for a priority one ambulance at times. So a statistic that is eye-opening regarding rapid response I'd like to share. When we transport a patient to the hospital, we initiate a patient care report that's digital now, and they can track these statistics a lot easier than they were back when they were handwritten reports. And a recent report released that tracks data from patients that were in cardiac arrest. A recent report released tracks data from patients that were in cardiac arrest, and that report focuses on patients that were resuscitated from cardiac arrest that have a good quality of life post-arrest. Across the nation, there's an 8.1% chance of a patient being revived and able to enjoy a good quality of life after a cardiac arrest. Across the state of Michigan, that percentage is 6.2%. Van Buren County is 12.1%. And the reason I'm proud of that is this little old Van Buren County has a success rate that is double the state average and 70% higher than the national average. And Shays can't take all the credit for that. We do have our community partners, our public service partners, South Haven Police Department's one of them, Van Buren County Sheriff's Department, Allegan County Sheriff's Department, that are willing to respond to help us out on emergency scenes with automated external defibrillators in hand. I do, however, give our department credit as I guarantee that our rapid response and quality training has driven that average higher. A lot of this presentation does focus on EMS response. It is 68% of our job, but we also do provide fire protection for our 97 square miles as well. The National Fire Protection Agency sets a benchmark for accommodation fire departments such as ours based upon population density and area. Shays is considered rural and expected to respond within 14 minutes. We respond in 5 minutes and 56 seconds. I'm proud of these numbers, as you can tell. They're benchmarks, goals, and bars that have been set forth for the last 137 years of the history of our department. But the reason I'm standing here tonight is we're currently experiencing what all fire departments nationwide have been, lack of interest in fire service, retention problems, and burnout. And following are some of our reasons locally. In the past, all of our career new hires were local. You joined the department as a paid-on-call member, you did hard work, and you were hopefully able to make it into a career at some point if you wished. But currently, 40% of our staff live outside the coverage area. We just don't have the interest locally like we used to. In the past, 100% of our emergency calls were transported to South Haven Community Hospital. Currently, 28% of our emergency calls are transported out of town to larger regional facilities. This takes an ambulance and 2 members out of service for 3 to 4 hours at a minimum, and that's happening a couple times a day. In the early 2000s, we were averaging 1,500 calls per year. We had 10 career members. Currently, we respond to double that, 30,000 calls annually with 14 career personnel, 2 of those additional added within the last couple years' time, because we adapted over the years. Our call volume increased, we added a couple more staff to the position, and we filled the void with overtime. That's a national fire department standard that we shouldn't be holding ourselves to. But we slowly started realizing that overtime wasn't working anymore. We started offering a shift fill, so larger blocks of time, so our folks could plan on an overtime opportunity and to help cover, and that started to not work as well. As we started breaking down why we don't have the participation that we used to, so our folks are working a lot, to put it plainly. A shift firefighter is scheduled to work 2,800 hours per year. That's 800 hours per year additional, more than a standard 8 to 5 job. And on average, all of our members were working, not just scheduled, 3,500 hours per year. If you were to draw that out, it's a 56-hour work week with about 12 to 15 hours of overtime on top of that. If you were to average that out over the course of 365 days, all of our members were working an average of 9 hours per day for 365 days straight every year for many, many years. And we do work 24-hour shifts. We do have bunks at the station, but very rarely, if any, do we get to use them anymore. 26% of our incidents occur between 10 p.m. and 7 p.m. That's 2 incidents per night, and a standard regular EMS call might last an hour with a 40-minute report time after that, trying to wind down. You're likely going to have another call in the meantime, probably drink a little bit of coffee while you're at the hospital, dropping the patient off, so it's hard to wind down after that. And none of these numbers take into effect the mental toll and the occupational stress that our members are dealing with. Our previous methods of providing coverage and call response worked well for many, many years. But with increased call volume, out-of-town transports, and extended times out of service, we've had to change how we operate. We've explored additional revenue. The federal government offers a staffing grant for fire departments annually to add personnel to your staff if you're overworked, understaffed. I've applied for the past 4 years with no consideration. I'm currently in the grant writing process and have sent requests for recommendation letters to Senator Slotkins and Senator Peters' office. One thing that I am going to note in our narrative for our staffing grant is scale to scale, apples to apples. I compared 6 of the big nationwide fire departments that are receiving these staffing grants on a regular basis. Apples to apples, Houston, Miami-Dade Fire, Austin, Detroit. There's a couple other ones in there too. Once averaged all out, each one of their members, based on call volume and personnel, each one of their members is attending to 150 incidents per member per year. Our members are responding to 214 incidents per member per year. So that was another thing that kind of struck in my brain, that our folks are running pretty hard. And we're just as eligible as these larger departments are for staffing grants. So our expenses have increased greatly over the last 5 years. Apparatus are at least 50 to 60% higher in costs. In 2020, our fire capital replacement plan had an engine getting replaced in 2026 for $350,000. I'd be happy if we could order one today for $700,000. We've stretched our capital replacement years as far as our apparatus goes out longer to try to save money here and there. Our medical supplies are 50 to 6% in cost at a minimum. But we're in need of additional career staff. It takes 4 total career personnel to cover 1 standard EMS call. That's 2 persons for the ambulance and 2 persons to cover for the next call, which occurs 40% of the time. If we were dispatched on a call right now, 40% of the time, so 3 times per day, an additional call is dispatched before that initial call is completed, which then pulls another 2 people into the mix. So a total of 6 personnel are needed at 3 times on average throughout a day's time. And even if we are able to spread out the average of 9.5 or 8.5 to 9 calls per day over the course of 24 hours, we still wouldn't reach NFPI compliance for personnel to respond to a fire, which is 6. Staffing level comparables, as I'd mentioned earlier with the bigger nationwide departments, we're pretty overworked. out of a cross-section of 22 departments in the state of Michigan. And not all these departments run EMS as well. A lot of these are just straight fire departments. Our members are running 35% more incidents per member per year. I've proposed to the Shays Authority Board a plan going forward to achieve the staffing required to provide the service that our residents expect. This assures that our calls are covered, our mutual aid is decreased, our current employee retention is increased, our current employee burnout is decreased, or reduced, I should say. Our retention is increased, our recruitment is increased, our response times remain low, that we're able to achieve NFPA compliance, and that our service level remains the same. Myself, my coworkers behind me, our whole department, we know this level of service. We know if you call, you're going to have an ambulance or an engine there timely. We don't know any other way. And not to pick on the neighboring communities, but a lot of communities don't know that. But we want to provide that same level of service, that same quality of service with the same caliber of people, with the same response times. But we're dangerously close to not being able to provide that due to all the factors I've mentioned earlier. It's tough for us to ask. Historically, fire and EMS do more with less. We always have, we're no exception, and we're proud of that. That's what's made us so strong. I think that's what gives us our grit, and I wouldn't have that any other way, but I think we've squeezed this orange about as much as we can, and our people are getting tired, and we wouldn't be asking if we didn't need it. I want our members at 100% when they arrive at your home, not 75%, 85%, 90% because they'd worked 65 hours last week and were up every shift and actually wanted to spend time with their families. And there's nothing wrong with that. Our department has changed. How we attract employees has changed. Generations have changed. Society's changed. How we transport patients have changed. Our EMS billing revenues have not changed, unfortunately, and have not followed that increase. Fire and EMS recruitment and retention is a nationwide crisis, and it's not sustainable. But thankfully, as an authority, we're able to combine all of our resources and provide that best service for our taxpayers' dollar. Our staffing plan is very comprehensive. We've shared it with our authority board and presented options. Exactly what those increases will be have yet to be determined. However, even with the increases, due to the fact that we can pool all of our resources, all of our members, all of our apparatus, the township and city taxpayers should still be at a millage rate lower than Shay's inception in 1996, 30 years ago. I'd be happy to answer any questions. I'm grateful for everybody's time tonight and hearing me out. Hope I didn't sound too preachy.
Joe.
Yes, sir.
That was a lot.
Yeah.
First of all, thank you for everything you do. You know, fire department's one of those things, and the police. You don't need them till you need them. Let me see if I got this right. Too often, you've been understaffed, and that hurts service level. And then up there, it says staffing model inadequate. So let's take one thing at a time. Staffing model inadequate. We just hired another person, or we're going to, in HR. Could that person help you get a model that helps hiring? Not that I have quick fixes to anything. I'm just asking the question. And then my really big question, is there this issue I hear about for police, firemen, that it's hard to hire now? Is it just the public's perception of those jobs is not like it used to be? There was a time when firemen were like on pedestals. They were just amazing, and they had their own culture within a firehouse. I have a friend who was a volunteer fireman. And then the police used to be community leaders, and now all of that changed. Is that what's going on? Or have people really changed that they just don't care? Because I don't buy that, but I'm just trying to figure out what's going on and that it's so hard for you to hire people.
We've lucked out the past, pretty much as long as I've been at Shays. We've always had good people float to the top and float in an interview. At one time, we'd hire one person at a time, maybe two at the most over the years, because we had folks that stuck around 25, 30 years. We did lose a couple of members over the last 4 years due to burnout. I've talked to them and asked them if I could use them as examples, and they said, yeah, I was burned out. Simple as that. And the circumstances that caused that are a lot of what we've mentioned in the presentation. But, and as I'd mentioned earlier in the presentation as well, fire and EMS is hard. A straight fire department, not saying that's not hard, but providing EMS services is tough. You have to know a lot. We have a lot of protocols we need to learn. It's tough to transition from transporting all of our patients to South Haven, 10-minute response, 10-minute transport time to sometimes 2, sometimes 3 hours. And that was hard to swallow because that changed a lot of the way we operated. And as far as hiring folks, like I said, we've always kind of lucked out. We had an eligibility list earlier in the year. We like to do that on an annual basis just to see who's out there and what's out there. And our last eligibility list was actually very solid. We had
Very what?
very solid. We had 6 applicants, and that's more than we've had in quite some time. So I was happy to see that, but as you'd mentioned, with working with the HR, I bounce a lot of stuff off of South Haven HR. We're our own HR. I'm not a specialist by any means, so I do bounce a lot of stuff off of HR Director Wise, and we'll probably be bouncing more stuff off her soon, hopefully.
Thank you.
George?
I also would like to thank you, Chief, and you and your staff for everything you do. My question is Bronson aware of the struggles that your staff goes through, and is there any dialogue that can be had with them on ways they can help so that maybe our South Haven Hospital can accept more people?
We have had discussions with the medical directors of Bronson South Haven and the medical director of our region, and they were sympathetic. And we just had this conversation 2 or 3 months ago. We were back in February when everybody had the flu. We were sent on diversion from South Haven Hospital a lot. They were filled up, and I made the conversation with the doctor and stated, we can't operate like this. It's killing us. We're not getting our calls covered, and it's killing our folks. And he did it. He was apologetic. He said, I wished I could help, but we're filled, and there's just nowhere for anybody to go. And we have had the discussion when this transition took place, when Bronson South Haven purchased South Haven Community Hospital and there was less services offered here. It was a hard transition. There was a lot of learning curves, and we're still learning. Currently, if a patient is at Bronson South Haven, Van Buren EMS will transport all non-emergent transports out of the hospital, and sometimes emergent transports out of the hospital to the larger regional facilities, if for walk-in patients, or if we brought somebody in that maybe had gotten worse over the day. They take a lot of that load, Van Buren EMS does, a lot more than we used to. There was a transition period where we were transferring a lot of patients to Kalamazoo because they didn't have the means to get them to a larger regional facility. But it's gotten better. I don't know that more services, when I've discussed, I wasn't given a clear answer whether more services were going to be offered in South Haven or not, but hoping so. That would improve things greatly.
What services are offered at the ER in South Haven and what aren't? Because it's changed in the last 25 years.
If we have any patients that are having confirmed cardiac issues, confirmed strokes, OBGYN, fractures, traumas, all those patients go out of town. Whether traumatic injuries will go to Bronson, Kalamazoo, or Butterworth. Depending on where you're at in our coverage area, Butterworth's actually just as much, just as close of a transport as Bronson, Kalamazoo is, just due to 43, and we can hop on 196. We actually take a fair amount of our out-of-town transports to Holland Hospital. They've been great to work with. Depending on I guess, where we're at, and according to Baseline Road, anything further south than that, a lot of times we'll take to Corwell, St. Joe, because they've been great to work with too. So as the years, those numbers have increased a little bit, our out-of-town transports. Can't put a pinpoint as to why, but I'm afraid that that's probably going to increase as the years go on as well.
Mary?
Yeah, thank you for your services, and I actually am a beneficiary of Shays from 2019, so great job. So I see on page 355 solutions, and I see then subsequent pages starting at 357 for increases in pay. Is that what you need, are increases from the different jurisdictions? You have it broken down so nicely so we can see how it's distributed among the members of Shays. So for 2026, it looks like you would need, just under an 18% increase, which would be just under 170,000 to help you meet needs from the city in 2027. It's a little bit higher, 20% for 295,000. Do we need to request Kate to look for ways in the budget to direct that additional pay to you to meet what you need?
The numbers, the projected 2026 numbers, I think are fairly safe. Our call volume has increased 170 calls already to date this year over last year. Once we get further on into that presentation, it's a little bit harder to gauge. I don't know why our call volume's increasing, so I don't know if it's going to keep. A lot of those numbers are based upon call volume increases. To reach the staffing that we need to be proficient, I believe at the end of or middle of 2027 is right about where we'll need to be staffed at to cover our calls, to be proficient, to reduce burnout. 2026, if I remember right, would allow us to hire 3 more members. And if I remember right, in the middle of 2027, we would be at an amount with our current call volume. If the call volume increases, then it graduates as it does in the presentation. But yes, 2026, if I recall, that increase is a fair bet as to what we'd be looking at for next year. And probably have to be revisited at some point next year to see if that increase didn't go up anymore. But we put some pretty lofty call volume increases in there because our call volumes have been increasing pretty loftily. And the only reason I can attribute our increased call volume is so greatly is now we're transporting a lot of the baby boomer generation, and it's our largest generation to date. And I think we just have a few more encounters. So, but yes, we would be comfortable right now with 24 members on shift. We could cover every call and cover it proficiently and reduce burnout. And that's what the numbers for 2026 reflect, and I believe the midpoint through 2027. And the reason those are spread out a little bit also is we can't onboard that many folks that fast. That's a lot of information. In your bigger departments, if you were on a fire department and you were stationed on a truck at a station, you know that one truck, and that's your baby. That's the truck you're checking off every shift. You have a seat in that truck. We've got 17 trucks to learn and 97 square miles to learn. And with our folks from out of town, they might not know that area as well as we did, those of us that grew up around here. So that's why there's a graduated kind of onboarding too.
So would it be appropriate, Kate, for us to move for you to work with Shays to come up with a budget, to amend our budget
We don't have to amend our budget, but I am exploring how this can be funded. If you look at, through the materials that Brandon has provided, that in 5 years, what we pay Touche's will increase 66%. We currently pay Touche's $1.1 million. By 2030, we would be paying nearly $2 million, and that would be coming out of the general fund. That's not sustainable. So I'm looking at what kind of funding options are available to us, because I think that this community wants the same level of service, but they're saying to us they need more people. That's still to come through the Shays Board. They pass their budget, and then the funding has to come from the member municipalities. And so I'm looking into that with the Attorney Eberly in the office, or the City Attorney's office, to find out what we can do so that this community can afford the level of services they're used to.
And this is based on projections, so we just don't know what will happen. It's a liquid document. You're always going to have to reassess. But at least in the short run for the next year, is that feasible? I appreciate doing the long term out to 2030. That's what's in the paper, in the presentation. But in the interim, to alleviate some of the issues, is that something that you could come back to us with a budget amendment once, if that's feasible? I'm just,
Like I said, I don't think we need a budget amendment. The Shays Board has already authorized 2 additional people to be hired this year. We would be looking at next year. They follow a calendar year budget, not our fiscal year. So that's something we always have to adjust every year when we come up with our money, or our dollars. Brandon is already working on his budget here in the next month or so.
And we did have, as Kate had mentioned, this year we had the approval to add 2 additional members. As we were looking at our budget and making potential amendments 6 months prior, our EMS, since our call volume has increased so much, even though we're only getting reimbursed for 50% of our cost for an EMS call, that did increase our budgeted revenue amount. So it should be a wash to add these 2 people just with our increased call volume for 2025, for our 2025 anyway.
Will we be able to afford additional Shays staffing and lifeguards?
I don't know. I think that we're seeing this is a larger increased amount. Like I said, we're going to be nearly $2 million, and that's going to come right from the general fund unless we find other mechanisms to pay for it.
Thanks.
Answer any other questions?
I just wanted to say thank you.
Thank you. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, moving on. Number 14, the City Council will be asked to approve a donation for 11 life ring cabinets, including life rings, rope, and installation hardware for installation on Woodman Beach, Dykeman Beach, Packard Park, Oak Street Beach, Newcomb Beach, and along the Harbor Walk. Kate.
Thank you, Mayor. A group of South Haven community members have donated funds for cabinets, life rings, rope, and the installation hardware for 11 life rings. The plan would be to put a life ring on each of the unmanned or the beaches to the north of North Beach. Beach Patrol does go along there, but they're usually just there to change the flags and maybe check out the beach, but they're not staying around that area. The other 6 life ring and cabinets would be placed along the Harbor Walk. I should mention that we do know that the north side of the Harbor Walk is owned by the Corps of Engineers, and that's probably not in our 25-year lease, but we have negotiated leases with them. So we would have to seek permission to put those life rings along the north side of the channel, permission from the Corps of Engineers. What is nice, however, is that until we can get that permission, these are all the same life ring size cabinets and life rings that we currently have on the pier. We currently have 6 on the pier right now.
Thank you. Is there a motion?
I make a motion to approve the donation of 11 life ring cabinets, which include the life rings, rope installation, and installation hardware in the locations as outlined by the mayor.
Support?
All in favor, say
Uh,
yes.
dis-
Oh, discussion.
So, the position would be as long as we get the lease for the north side of the river, correct? Because if we don't get the lease, nothing will go there?
That's correct. We're not-
And it's the understanding that if they don't go there, they would simply be used as replacements for the ones that we do have.
Yes, or we can find another location for them.
Okay.
Any other discussion? All in favor, say yes.
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 Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you, Ryan and Mandy. Moving on, number 15, the city council will be asked to consider the approval of the scope of work and contract with Double Hall Solutions in the amount of $45,000 to assist with the development of a lifeguard program. Kate?
Thank you, Mayor. I went, after our meeting, I think it was on June 2nd, I went back and talked with Double Hall Solutions and came up with this contract and this proposal. This is a proposal, as we've talked about, for me to get systems assistance. We are starting, council's looking for a lifeguard program. This is a complete system that we would have to, create, implement, and integrate with what we currently have. As you just seen, we have very adept Shays in EMS, and they're part of that response, but this is talking about an incorporated system that I need assistance with. DHS provides this kind of expertise. They're a targeted group that does project management. That's what we're looking for assistance on. And I know we've talked about milestones, so there is a couple decisions that have to be made with council, so we're looking at bringing something back with council end of September, October.
Thank you. Any questions? Mary?
Yes. I'm, in looking at the steps, it seems like the liability is unresolved, and that's spread across both steps 2 and 3. And having voted on this as a priority, I would have expected that to been resolved before we even pay any money towards the program. Because if a city council is not going to accept the liability, we shouldn't be spending money on the program. So I have concerns with the order of the steps of this program. I have been asking about having a meeting with the litigation council, and we have not. I think that would be a critical step to making sure that we are properly going down this path. And again, I believe that by making this a priority, we have accepted the liability. Of equal concern is the subject matter experts. Chris Brewster, who did our report for us for what a program would involve, a lifeguard program would involve, certifies for USCLA. And he emailed us and on Saturday, and I believe resent it again on Sunday. I think it went into several, it wasn't my junk email initially. And I do have concerns with the 2 persons identified as subject matter experts. Haberly, if that's how it's pronounced, although fire chief for Huntington Beach for approximately 4 years, under 5, came from Inland Lake. It appears his experience really is more administrative, not hands-on, and if they are going to be critiquing a report, they should have USLA training and that type of expertise, which they do not. I think likewise, Brian Frieders also shows lack of meaningful experience in a pertinent lifeguard program. He was in Pasadena, which is also inland, and just it appears that neither of these experts have experience as surf lifeguards, directly supervising lifeguards, or creating a lifeguard program. So I'm very concerned about what will come out of their involvement, especially at the fee that they would be charging. I don't see this as a wise use of funds. As I said from the very beginning, I would much rather see Chris Brewster or someone identified by him as a subject matter expert, intimately involved in this. And I thought the DHS was really going to be looking more at, I'll call it the backbone of how this would be integrated in, not all of the reevaluation of things that we've already discussed.
Mary, you met with DHS a while ago. Did you ask them about how they were qualified?
So I am not taking issue with DHS. I am taking issue with the program that they brought. The impromptu meeting, I had no notice of it. I was asked to participate the same day it happened, and I had a very full day that day, squeezed it in, so no prep time. And they had specific questions for George and myself. We did not go into detail. I did identify certain areas where I expected them to come to us with options, like whether the beach enforcement attendants would remain or whether they would be obsolete with the lifeguard program, and use of their equipment for the overall cost. But what I am seeing here is not what I expected, and I don't believe that the steps are in the right order to efficiently navigate this from start to finish. And I cannot support the proposal as presented.
Any other questions? Comments? George?
So we've asked Kate to give us a lifeguard program. If we want to further delay this by getting into the detail and how she's coming to us and saying, hey, this is what I need to develop a lifeguard program. If we're going to further delay this by getting into the details and telling Kate how we're going to do it, that's the bottom line, is it's going to delay things. The city manager is asking us, or telling us, this is what I need. I'm saying, let's give her what she needs so she can give us what we want, which is a lifeguard program.
Joe?
See if I can make an analogy, see if I got this right. When I had my business, I hired an accountant, I hired a sales consultant, and they all did charts for me. They made projections for me. About 2 years into doing these beautiful charts, one of them said to me, so what is it what kind of business are you in? They knew nothing about my business, but they knew how to give me exactly the data I needed. So when I talked to you today, and I thought maybe 2 weeks ago, what I remember you said, I wrote down, system to system. So I don't think you're looking for them to understand the lifeguard business. You're looking for them to say, how do we take a lifeguard program and incorporate it into the city's system so they can be integrated? Let the National Lifeguard Association take care of everything else, but let them, and it's only I shouldn't say only, but it's $45,000 to get this thing off the ground, that you openly say you can't do it, you don't know how to do it. So in that regard, it seems to make sense to do that.
Yes, this is a capacity issue, and I've brought this up before. And why we're looking for DHS is because this is a significant new program. This is not, this is public safety. This is something you want to get right. And this is an entire emergency response that we're trying to coordinate here and get this all right. So when it's ready to go out, it's ready to go out, and people can rely on it. So that's what I'm asking for assistance for. I know that we have the report from USLA. There's things in there that are best practices that we're looking at implementing. But I need these folks to help get the system installed so we can coordinate and integrate this new department.
So Kate, if I could add one last thing. I said when we talked about this 2 weeks ago, I think it was 2 weeks ago, I wanted a deadline, because to Wendy's point, and I think all of us, and George kind of alluded to it, we want to move forward. We don't want to keep pushing this back. So if we hire this company, I would like you to tell them and tell us there's a start and a finish point on this. I don't want this to go 8, 9 months and miss the spring of next year.
Right.
If we're paying them this much money, let's get them to commit. I can make a I can put this together to tie in with your system, let's say 60 days, or whatever's a fair amount.
Right, we're planning, the aim is, and part of the proposal is to bring back their recommendations to council end of September, early October. So that's
And
their
that'll be
timeframe.
contained in there.
Yes.
Okay.
Any other comments?
And I should note that this is a contract price of $45,000. They do have in their proposal some travel expenses of $10,000, so that would be on top of the 45.
Thank you. Oh, our interim police chief is coming up to the microphone.
I heard Mary had some questions about the subject matter experts. I know a little bit about it. I spent some time in Huntington Beach with their surf lifeguards. They're run by the fire department. So if Huntington Beach is offering their fire chief, he is ultimately who is in charge of the lifeguard program. He is the one who manages it from the backside, which I think is where we're saying we don't know what that looks like. So he might not be a lifeguard, but he understands what it takes to run a lifeguard. It's not uncommon, so I don't know who the chief is. I don't know him personally, but it's not uncommon for lifeguard services in California to be managed or run by a fire department. So ultimately, that fire chief is who is going to be in charge. He's going to have the budget. He's going to know the staffing. So if that's a concern, Huntington Beach is one of the premier lifeguard services in California. They host the U.S. Open of Surfing there every year because they have the most consistent surf in California.
Thank you. Any other questions, Wendy?
I did have some reservations when I read this at first. But I know I talked to Kate a little bit about it earlier, and I totally appreciate Chris Brewster's email, and I am hoping and assuming that the finished product is going to be USLA approved and certified, no matter what DHS comes up with, correct? So it'll be kind of a marrying of what Mr. Brewster gave us, and then this kind of systemic putting it together.
We're looking to implement as much of that we can, but of course, we'll have to make sure that these are indeed best practices and not trying to be the expert here, but there are some things I want to look into. But yes, we're looking to implement a certifiable program.
Okay.
Okay.
And hang on, one more thing.
Go
sorry.
ahead.
And if it came back and council voted on it to move it forward, or if we had questions about safety issues or best practices, would it be possible at that point to get like an open water expert, subject matter expert to just give it the final approval, or how would that work?
I guess I'm not sure. I guess maybe we'll go down that road and see what we need to get. I'm not sure what the concern is.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure that our final product is what it needs to be.
Well, I can tell you, if we were going to have a lifeguard program, we're going to have the best lifeguard program.
Okay.
That's what the aim is.
Okay.
Okay. I think we're ready for a motion.
I have further comment. I appreciate your comments, but part of the peer review is review assumptions in the USLA model. And so if they are not USLA certified and trained, I am very concerned about their review of assumptions on a model where they don't have that training. So again, with the subject matter experts, I appreciate it's the backside of it, but they are reviewing the report from the expert and developing a risk matrix for covered versus uncovered beaches And that's really what Chris Brewster did. So they're basically second guessing him without, I appreciate that they may have managed it, but the hands-on has the expertise to better assess that.
Yep, and I guess I don't disagree with what you're saying, but, and I can't say with 100% clarity that Huntington Beach is or isn't a USLA certified lifeguard service. I would be absolutely shocked if they were not. USLA works with almost every exclusive lifeguard service in California. I would be floored. I would almost stake my career on Huntington Beach is USLA certified, because they work closely with every other agency around them, California State Parks, LA, which is where Brewster came from. So he's gonna have an understanding of what USLA certifications are, because they are a USLA, I'd be shocked if
They
they
are.
weren't.
They are, we
Yeah.
just checked.
Yep.
We're all, one of the other subject
you.
matter experts is also from Santa Monica, which runs a lifeguard program as well.
Okay,
I would move to approve the scope of work and contract for Double Hull Solutions in the amount of $45,000 to assist with the development of a lifeguard program.
Second.
any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Wilkins,
Yes.
Arnold,
Yes.
Hasley,
No.
Onuki,
Yes.
Reeser,
Yes.
Sleeper,
Yes.
and Brown.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Next, the city council will be asked to receive an update from interim police chief Adam DeBoer.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, council. I thought this would be my only time at the podium today, but
You're doing a good job.
Never underestimate yourself.
You're always welcome.
apparently. So I have the usual numbers. I know they only tell part of the story. I know it's not an exciting part of the story. For the city of South Haven in May, we ran 256 calls, and we conducted 62 traffic stops. Through the South Haven Township calls in there, 127 and 56 traffic stops. As you can see, we are far busier in the city than we are in the county. Those numbers are just going to grow now that June is here. For the annual totals, we're at 1,937 calls and 705 traffic stops so far for this year. As far as what those calls led to, we had 188 reports taken with 41 arrests, several retail frauds. 2 of those retail frauds were charged as felony retail frauds. That means there's a couple things that can mean. It was $1,000 or more, or they worked in an organized way. So organized retail crime is a group of people working together. A lot of times that product is then sold back somewhere else. Those are the 2 felony type retail frauds that we typically deal with. We had 13 driving offenses. 3 of those were for operating while intoxicated, possession of meth charge, parole violations, bench warrants, and domestic assaults. Most of the arrests that we have in May are what we call self-initiated arrests. So those are officers who are out on patrol, paying attention to their duties, stopping a car, finding a drunk driver. One of our retail frauds, an officer saw a kid walking down the drive at Walmart or at Meijer. The kid looked at the cops, dropped a bag, and took off running. The officer made contact with him. He had over $800 in baseball or Pokemon cards in his bag. So that's a self-initiated arrest. That's not something he was called there for. It's something that he realized and took action on. We also wrote 37 citations. For training in May, we're a part of the West Michigan Criminal Justice Training Consortium. We hosted it's a consortium of like 94 West Michigan agencies. We pool some of our state dollars to bring training to the area that otherwise South Haven probably couldn't afford to offer to our officers. We hosted a class for them, a field training officer class, 24 officers from around West Michigan. We're at South Haven PD. Officer Josh Lee from South Haven attended that class. He's in our lineup right now to train the new guys, Aaron Spears and Silvario Miranda. We had 10 hours of continuing professional education training. Most of that is done online. Our TASER instructors, 3 of them were recerted this year. Every 2 years, they have to go through a TASER master recert class. They did that up at Kent County. We did our monthly SWAT training. The SWAT team was looking to add some individuals to the training. They host a countywide tryout. Any officer that is an officer or a deputy in Van Buren County is invited to try out. Officer Josh Lee conducted the tryout. He was chosen as one of the top 2. I was a little hesitant. We have 5 officers in there right now. However, Officer Keene decided that he had done his time in SWAT and stepped down, so Officer Lee could move into that position. So he's going to SWAT training school in October, which is put on by our training consortium. The next slide, you guys, Evan Hauger, lieutenant with the Southwest Enforcement Team. It's a multi-jurisdictional narcotics team. He's the lieutenant of that team. South Haven has had a great relationship with SWET, as we call them. You guys approved us to purchase a TruNarc machine. Evan brought his that we have used on and off, and we have a little demonstration. So he's going to get it set up. He's going to test. I think you said you brought some crack cocaine and some methamphetamine to test. The old way of testing, we would have to open a package of drugs. We'd have to take a little sample out, put it into a plastic envelope, break a couple of glass vials, shake it, and see what the color change to the substance did. It's a little iffy now with fentanyl. We don't want to open those products. We keep Narcan now at our evidence station in case we do have an accidental exposure to fentanyl, because it can be fatal. We all know officers who have had it, and it's not a good thing. So with you guys allowing us to purchase a TruNarc, it allows us to test the drugs without taking them out of a package. It limits our exposure. We get a much clearer result, as you'll soon see. And it makes us be able to act faster on the prosecution side of things. Before, if we didn't field test it, the prosecutor wouldn't authorize a charge. So we would have to let that person go back out on the streets, as opposed to taking them to jail, because they had to have a definitive answer on what kind of drug it was. Is it ready to go?
I'm testing right now.
Okay. So as far as I know, I'm not a scientist. I don't pretend to be. It shoots a laser into the substance through the plastic bag. It can read what the substance is, and after several seconds to a few minutes, it'll let us know what the substance is. So if Kate goes back up to a slide, there's some other inherent issues that we've had with we call them the NIC field test kits. I've got a picture up there. I was going to grab one, I didn't. But inside of a little plastic envelope is our glass ampules. So within the last year, we've had an officer that went to break one of the glass ampules, which you'll see on the left.
Now it's all off.
You'll see the pink ampule on the right side of the methadone kit. That's in a glass ampule. So when that ampule breaks,
This is clean and safe to handle.
so that's the machine that you guys just allowed us to purchase. He just tested it without taking it out, without exposing anybody in the room to whatever it was. What was it?
So that's methamphetamine, and I'd like to point out too, this is a very thick DEA evidence bag. Inside that is another thick evidence bag, and it can shoot right through it. It has a catalog of tens of thousands of different known substances in there. It can shoot through glass. It's really only limited by really dark substances because it can catch them on fire, so we avoid really dark substances. Some forms of fentanyl are very dark. But the newer TruNarcs are actually much better. This is, I forgot to look at the back, but several years old, this model.
So we appreciate that. That'll make our job easier. The prosecutor appreciates it. The people of South Haven appreciate it because now we don't have to question what it is. When it goes to prosecution, when it goes to a circuit court trial, everything will still go up to the Grand Rapids MSP lab, but this allows us to do our job more efficiently and to keep people with drugs off the streets of South Haven. So, thank you.
Thank
Also,
you.
The MSP lab uses the exact same device when they first get substances to kind of triage and categorize them. They typically don't actually test the substances until they're notified that it's going to go to trial, just to save time, to save money, manpower. So this is quickly becoming the industry standard. They are expensive, they have good warranties, and I can't imagine doing my job without these anymore, especially with the rash of overdose deaths the last few years of fentanyl that looked like cocaine. We've had a lot of overdose deaths because people thought they were using cocaine and they died of fentanyl. This can be helpful at those death scenes, because if we have an overdose, we can zap the substance and tell EMS, doctors, if they're still treating a patient, or the police, the patient's deceased, of what the substance was.
Thank you.
And I think he's trying to get the cocaine to test.
Yeah, so this is crack cocaine from 2017. That's really old in my book. I mean, it's not even the right color anymore, but it's at 67%. The reason it's taking a little bit longer is because it's so old, but I did test these in my office before I came here, so I know it's going to test positive for crack cocaine.
So it's so sensitive, a lot of times they'll have whatever the dealer or manufacturer used to cut the substance. So I know our detective in Sweat said a couple of times it came back as baby formula, I think is a popular one, lactose.
We see a lot.
Yeah, yep, so,
Also detect multiple drugs, so if there's two drugs mixed together, it can pick them both up.
so, thank you.
Did
I-
Mary, did you have a question?
That was my question, is what about when they're mixed,
Yes.
multiple?
It can't quantify how
Right, the
many are
percentage.
there, but that's super important too for, attending physicians that have a patient, or for police on scene to determine, is this a bad batch of drugs? Did users think it was cocaine, it was actually fentanyl? So the presumptive abilities that this gives us, that is cocaine-based, which is crack cocaine, street name, is very helpful for us. And we don't mind bringing it to South Haven PD. We do it, we bring it to Covert PD too. But I think it's a wise purchase because we're not always working.
Well, and again, it's just more efficient for us. So part of the cost of the unit, they come and train 12 officers. Because it is so expensive, we'll train the command staff, the sergeants, the detective, and myself. It'll be kept in one room so we don't break it, because we tend to be a little hard on equipment sometimes. I do have one more slide, and it's our guys out at the Fun Fest on June 7th. So you have Sergeant Carlotto, Aaron Spears, one of the new officers, Eric Garcia, Phil Garcia, and Ron Richmond there. They had a great time at the Family Film Fest, or the Family Fun Fest. So we've got Cones with Cops coming up at McDonald's on June 25th, I do believe. And Walmart just reached out. They're doing a Children's Miracle Network fundraiser. They're wondering if we can kind of do the same thing we did at the Fun Fest. So we're looking forward to working with them as well. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Chief, I had a
Oh, go ahead.
thank you for your presentation, and the cost and catching the bad guys, but keeping you guys safe from fentanyl is, I think it's well worth the money. But I heard from some downtown merchants, there's been some bad $50 bills. Could you, what advice do you give us? How do we protect ourselves? What do we do?
We've had a bunch of them. Actually, this weekend, one of our stores took them. They found all 3 people today, got them interviewed. We're submitting charges on that. So if you're a downtown merchant, or if you know them, the pen test that a lot of them use is pretty easy to overcome for a person who's counterfeiting. I recommend that they pick up the bill. If it's over a $5 bill, it has the strip on one side internally in the bill, to look at that, and also to look for the watermarks. Those are probably the 2 easiest and fastest ways to look at it. There's a bunch of other stuff in there that if you get a magnifying glass out, or you zoom in on your phone, you can read some micro print in certain spots on a bill. You can look for blue and red fibers. We have seen some of the bills actually have blue or red fibers because they're using such a good, the scanners and copy machines now are so good they can pick up the fibers. So the band inside the bill and the watermarks are probably the 2 best ways to make sure you're not getting counterfeit money.
And good to know you got them already.
We got that bunch. So we have been, I think there was a previous group that was in. I think they were out of Indiana, and I think with Berrien County's help, we were able to identify them as well. So there's a whole email exchange that our detectives are on. Any of our previous detectives have been on. That it's called the CalVan. It's Kalamazoo, Van Buren, Berrien County, Allegan County. Any detective who wants to be on it, MSP is on it. They can put information out, and it just allows us to all work together really well. So I believe that's how we got the first round of counterfeiters, was with the help of Berrien County.
Cool.
Okay, anything else? Thank you so much.
Thank you.
It is now time for public comment. Citizens in the audience will be heard on items not on the agenda, and you have up to 5 minutes.
Good evening, Ryan Servetus, 525 Superior Street. I just want to give an update on the Emily. We, after going through a couple different sources for a permanent case for the beach, we finally got Farron Metalworks over off of Blue Star. They're finishing up this week, and then Pro Powder off of Lovejoy is going to give a free powder coat it for us, so it'll have a nice bright red cover to protect it, and it'll be, hopefully, if everything goes good, Friday, if not next Monday, it'll be delivered to Public Works Building for you guys.
Great.
So,
And thanks again for everything that you've done. So we really appreciate you.
thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comments?
Good evening. Brad Lubbers, Allen County Commissioner in Casco Township. I just want to give an update on the Holtec restart. So we had a Board of Commissioners meeting last week, Thursday, and we approved a resolution in support of the restart. So that will be forwarded on to Van Buren County Commissioners in Paw and Berrien County and the other local legislators for support. And then the big FEMA drill that is coming up, that exercise that they evaluate all of us on, is July 29. That will happen with all the emergency services participating, and then we have to pass that in order for us to move on with FEMA. So, and we have to do other tests before that, but that's the big thing that was next. And then we're still looking at October of this year for restart. So at this moment. So anyway, thank you.
Question.
Thank you. Oh,
So of that FEMA test on the 29th, will we hear or see anything we should, so as not to panic the public?
You probably will not.
Okay.
It will be internally through the emergency management buildings and through the state emergency management buildings. So-
Okay.
so, thank you.
Thanks.
thank you. Any other comments?
Lisa Croupiers, 561 Indiana. Just getting up here and letting everybody know that I'm running for Ward 1 City Council Representative. Our friend Joe Reeser is term limited, and I would be taking his seat if I won the election. A little bit of information about me. I am a longtime Michigander, Michigan State University graduate. My last career I had, I'm a retired family and consumer sciences teacher. If you don't know what that is, it's basically home ec. 7 different content areas in which all of them I was endorsed to teach. I have had past employment at Michigan Departments of Public Health. I worked in communicable diseases, and I also worked at the Department of Agriculture as a food inspector. I have 4 adult children. 2 of them live in the Chicago area, 2 in Colorado. 2 grandchildren, and my husband is Bob. We have been married, it'll be 47 years next year. I'm already doing the work of being a representative. I have been attending the meetings, the city council meetings, and over the last year started going to planning commission, probably for 2 to 4 years. I'm knowledgeable of the issues, and I became interested in city activities way back in 2016 when the short-term rental situation became an issue. And I started watching meetings remotely and attending when I was in town. Some of my key initiatives are my main platform representing South Haven voting residents. I am committed to continued short-term rental reform, compliance, and also effective enforcement. Preserve the character of our neighborhoods and diverse communities. Prioritize housing that is affordable and desirable to our workforce population and newly hired professionals. And also maintain our lakeshore environment and continue to develop recreation opportunities for all ages. And I'm also a big advocate of beach safety and lifeguards. Some of the things that I love about South Haven, we're a pure Michigan trail town. I go to Van Buren County Senior Services. My husband and I go there every day for lunch. We really do. Bronson Wellness Center, we utilize that facility. Historical Association of South Haven is one of my favorite organizations in town. I do volunteer gardening. I'm a big fan of beach life. I love our local businesses, and I love our residents. The primary election is on August 5th. There are 3 of us in Ward 1, and 1 of us is going to be eliminated in the primary election. And of course, the general election is Tuesday, November 4th. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Joe Wilkins, 811 Indiana Street. I just want to piggyback on a comment that Mr. Reeser, Councilman Reeser made to encourage the council that, you know, you all are doing a good job. It's easy to stand behind this podium and pretend that you have all the answers. I've been sitting here for some years now watching how this council operate, how decisions are being made. It's not easy. It's not easy. So I want to, you know, let the candidates that are running now, just a heads up, it's a different ball game when you're sitting on the other side. It's a different ball game. I also want to encourage those that are running to you know, to keep in mind that we're representing someone beside ourselves. And everyone has the right to support who they want to support. But it's the way you support them. It's the way you support your candidate. That's very important. I think that if we continue to go the way we're going with this social media stuff, it has got a negative mark on this city, and eventually it will affect. It would affect how people view us, and we want to be viewed in a good light. But if we continue, it's going to eventually take us down. So I want to just admonish folks. Remember, we're representing others beside ourselves. What I've learned from the first time I ran, the last time I ran for those seats, I was running against Scott Smith, incumbent, and Ed Polk. I was able to get past the primaries and face Scott Smith in the general election. I've learned a lot since then. One thing that I learned that is easy to sit here and complain. It takes a little more effort to try to be a part of the solution. So I've been trying to do that, sitting here, listening, talking to different people. So we came up with, based on feedback, we came up with a meet and greet the candidate night on June the 21st, which will be a part of the Juneteenth event in the park, Elkinburg Park, from 2 to 3. So far, we've got the buy-in of pretty much all of the candidates, except a couple that I haven't quite got a confirmation from, but most of the candidates that in the mayoral race and the Ward 1 race will be a part of that meet the candidate night. So from 2 to 3, if you really want to come out to get to know these candidates, you're welcome to join us at Elkinburg Park as part of the Juneteenth event. From 2 to 3, we will have a meet and greet with the candidates. And so I want to just thank the committee, the coordinators of the Juneteenth event for allowing us to take up a portion of the time. It'll be probably about an hour long, not quite an hour long, where the residents of Ward 1 will be able to, ask questions to the candidates. So it's all about trying to inform our voting blocks and keeping in mind that we need to run these races on a higher plane than what we're running them right now. Even tonight, I've happened to scan through my phone, and I saw a lot of negative comments from somebody that's inside the chambers. I think that's very childish. We're better than
You have
that.
1 minute.
And I know others have said, well, who make you the gatekeeper to more? Listen, all of us, every one of us, all to want to represent ourselves in the best light and represent this city in the best light. So let's keep that in mind when we put out nasty comments and things like that, especially when we're influencing the generation that's coming behind us. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments?
Alrighty. Ken Sprindley, 345 Bailey Avenue. I am running for Ward 2. Moved to South Haven my family moved to South Haven in '86 when I was 2 years old. I just missed the badge of honor of being a lifelong resident. My platform right now is a little more transparency between leadership and those and our constituents, those voting for us. Number 2, trying to make our community affordable to live in for those of us who work, live, and worship here. A little more affordable living, a little more affordable housing. And number 3, let's figure out a cost and logistics on lifeguards, and let's give beach safety a chance. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? If not, we're moving on to city manager comments.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a few items, maybe you saw out there, but we've begun dredging. We've started the emergency dredging project. It's out on the harbor. 2, we had a power outage last Thursday, so out of nowhere, around 1:30, what happened was a tree fell on the transmission line. The city has 2 transmission lines. One comes up through Bangor, one comes up through Riverside. They're both AEP feeds. That one knocked out, and as I told you, it was the main substation. That was incorrect. That was the information I got, but the Phoenix substation was out, and that's what knocked out most of the north side. But the main substation stayed on. Our crews went and helped AEP locate where the tree had fallen and what was the issue, because initially we didn't know what the issue was, but when you take out a whole substation, usually it's something to do with the feed. Our crews helped out figuring out where that was. AEP was able to get that fixed, and we were back up by 4 o'clock, so a pretty quick outage. But yeah, it took out a whole substation. Riverfront Concert Series starts this week, this Thursday at 7 p.m. I think it's Nautic Bound, so that'll be a new returning concert series. This Saturday is the Juneteenth celebration at Elkenberg Park. Just as a reminder, Juneteenth is a state holiday, and they can shoot off fireworks. There are restrictions as to where you can shoot them off and what kinds, but just be aware that you may hear some fireworks this weekend. Also, July 10th is the Planning Commission meeting. There will be having a master plan, a public hearing on the master plan. And those are my comments.
Thank you. And I appreciated the quick response you gave about the outage and continuous updates, so thank you.
You're welcome.
Any questions for Kate?
Yeah, Kate, would you put as I had requested last time, I believe, would you put the master plan update public hearing and a link to the master plan for people on the newsroom? And that,
Well, it's on, I will do that, and I think it's the public hearing is noticed for the 10th. It's on the calendar as well.
yep, on July 10th. And I believe comments are due by noon to Kelly on July 10th. I've just noticed a lot of emails are lost in junk mail. Is there something IT can do about that, especially with these public notice and time constraints?
I don't think we can do anything about that. I think we just have to be more vigilant about checking it. There's significant amount of cyber attacks that go on everywhere, public organizations, and we really don't want to loosen up our restrictions so that we are faced by that. So we are always checking on that and trying to see what we can do better. A lot of times people may have to say, don't send this to junk. That's something else you have to do is the control of your email.
Yep, and I know that when I get emails from constituents and it goes to my junk mail, I have the option to click it's not junk, and it then automatically redirects it, all subsequent ones to my regular inbox. So it just seems like certain emails tend to continually go into the junk email, so that's why I didn't know if there was something that could be done. And with the fireworks, you and I spoke about this earlier, and you were not supportive of reissuing the public service announcement, but, you know, short-term rentals are not to have, fireworks are not permitted on short-term rental dwelling unit places when it's occupied by anyone other than the owner. Even if the PSA will not be updated, it seems like it would be beneficial for the newsroom to be updated to that effect. And it's great that the box for Emily is coming, and you had said it's currently stored in the shed with the wheelchair.
That's correct.
But it's only going to be, I believe you said, operated by those trained, and you're still working on setting that up.
That's correct.
Do you have any idea?
Beach Patrol and Shays and SHPD will all be trained on it, so we have to organize quite a bit of people to get that training. It's not going to be used by the general public, no. We have a lot of assets that can be on the beach. We have Beach Patrol that are down there all the time.
Right, are you trying to do this? Well, okay. It's just with the beach season. And, yeah, that was the main.
Any other questions for Kate? Okay, moving on. Councilperson comments? Letitia?
I don't have any comments.
George?
No comments.
Joe?
No comment.
Harry?
So I have a few PSA. So first, thank you, Bishop Wilkins, for setting up the meet and greet on the 21st for Juneteenth. We have Pride in the Park and also the 5K benefit for Alban coming up on the 28th. AAUW's book sale collection barrels are going to be going out on June 30th. So look for those in the standard place. I attended a seminar hosted by the Garden Club on garbage and recycling. And I want to thank them for doing that. Best Way was present, so that was very nice. And a couple take-homes that you may not have realized that result in all your efforts being diverted to the garbage. So one is if you collect your recyclables in plastic bags and put the plastic bags in the recycle bin, that whole plastic bag gets diverted to garbage. So please don't collect them in plastic bags, just leave them loose. And make sure your food containers are clean, because if paper is soiled with, say, olive oil, that is all thrown out as garbage. And I would like to reiterate something that Bishop Wilkin talked about with civility. You know, there are signs going up, and they are illegal because they do not have the required pay-for-by statement on them. I oppose such illegal signs, regardless of the content. And I would ask that all city council members, especially the mayor and Councilman Arnold, And also, all candidates for any office provide any information they have with regard to who paid for and/or distributed the illegal signs or any future ones, and remind every elected official of the obligation to uphold our laws and tell the truth when asked. And I also ask each council member, especially the mayor and Councilman Arnold, to speak out against these illegal signs and encourage compliance and provide any details to identify the person or persons who paid for and/or distributed the illegal signs to the Election Bureau. And that's all I have.
Wendy?
Well, I was gonna speak just really quickly on the signs too. I received an email from a local school teacher and have heard a couple other comments in the community about how surprised and disappointed they are to see those signs go up in our neighborhoods, and how, as a whole, it just makes our community look bad. It's just negativity that we don't need. I would like for people who decided to have those signs in their yards to reconsider, just out of civility and, like, is this the community that we want to be? And then I just wanted to wish a happy Juneteenth to our Black community in South Haven, and look forward to the celebration this coming weekend. And those are my comments.
Jeff?
Okay. With regards to signs and my role in it, I will ask the person that put that sign up that I think people are referring to reconsider. And then the rest of my time, I would like to talk about the Water Life Rings case and housing mounts. A lot of people donated. I just want to read their names. Bob and Connie Metzers, South Haven Steelheaders, Joseph and Veronica Moynihan, Jim and Colleen Sveck, I hope I said that right, Tim Stegman, South Pier Creamery, Casey and Corey Burrows of Hookup Charters, Chef Joel and Heidi Gasikowski of Taste, Karen Schneider, Jennifer Lane, and Ryan and Mandy Cervedas.
Thank you. Last week, I attended the Small Town and Rural Development Conference up north, and it was a great conference, and I learned a lot about housing and infrastructure funding for small towns. This evening, I had dinner with 13 senior citizens from Carmel, Indiana, who are in town. They've never been to South Haven before, and they are thrilled about everything we have to offer. So it was fun to be in a big round table with people who are just wild about our town the way we are. And that is all. Thank you, and if there's no further business, we're adjourned.